Raptor, and today we're going to be doing a fan-made Death Battle Tournament of Champions, and I'm incredibly excited to see what you guys vote for and to see how all of this goes. I guess the first thing I just want to make sure is that, you know, everyone can hear everything properly. You should just basically be able to hear me and some Death Battle music in the background. Oh shit, Raptor's real? I didn't know that. I thought he was a myth. Also, happy birthday, Cody. I'm seeing a lot of people wishing you a happy birthday. That's awesome. But yes, just making sure everything sounds and looks good before we really get started. Just want to make sure about all that. Never been on any of these streams before, but I'm looking forward to what goes on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's gonna be pretty different from what we've done before. What's up, Raptor? What's up, Shyster Meister? Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yep, audio's fine. We can hear you. Okay, great. Awesome. Really happy to hear that. Thank you guys so much. So this is basically just a fun tournament of champions. I'm like, what's an interesting stream idea that I can do? And this is basically just what I came up with. So there's a few things to note before we get started. So yeah, again, this is all just for fun. Just taking a look at my notes, making sure I got everything, making sure I say everything properly. So yes, everything's gonna be done live, so it's all gonna be in this one stream. It's gonna be kind of similarly structured to the other Tournament of Champions. Some differences, you'll see what those are as we go on, but the main thing is that yes, it's all gonna be done live. There are 64 matchups, so twice as big as the previous 32. So it's definitely going to take some time. There's definitely going to be a lot of tab swapping, you know, making sure that that we can do all this as smoothly as possible. And this is supposed to be like the most random amalgamation of matchups that you could come up with. Like, there's stuff from My Most Wanted, but there's also stuff from versus matchup reviews, stuff that's almost gotten on versus matchup reviews, like pitched matchups. There's so many different kinds of matchups. So that's like the main point of this, not to get a bunch of matchups that I personally think are good, but matchups that I think everyone can kind of, you know, get something out of, right? There's gonna be rounds where you think this round sucks, but there are also gonna be rounds where you're like, oh, I actually like all of these matchups. Like, that's what I'm expecting anyway, right? So yeah, how will voting work? So I'm gonna be running polls as we go on, so you don't need to like go to any sort of external thing. I'm basically just going to be, although that now that I'm saying it out loud, that might have been better actually, because I actually have to like input all the polls manually, which is definitely gonna take some time. But as far as, yeah, the actual voting is just going to be done live through YouTube polls, so no need to worry about, you know, going to any sort of external place. As far as everything else, yeah, like, again, I'm thinking this is really just for fun, but maybe I'll do something with the winning matchup depending on what it is, or depending on what I'm feeling. Like, no promises, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking. And there's also, there is a bit of a slow mode, only like 10 seconds this time, because I don't want to limit you guys from talking to each other that much, because I imagine some of that's going to be happening. I'm not going to be able to interact with the chat as much as usual though, because not to say that I'm on a time crunch, but I do definitely have a hard out today. So I kind of just need to make sure things keep moving smoothly. Of course though, if anyone sends a super chat or anything like that, I will be sure to read it, so no worries there. But otherwise, let's just take a look at everything. So yeah, some people are already suggesting matchups. I mean, you know, all of them are already submitted. There was a submission form actually that I did a while back, and I got a ton of submissions for that. So thank you guys so much for helping me narrow things down. So some of the stuff that's on here is from the submission form, some of it is not. Again, just the craziest, well, not the craziest, but like, you know, a very wide selection of matchups is what I'm hoping. I'm guessing Daleks versus Sentinels is on here, which is pretty cool. Well, you do see the thumbnail, right? Yeah, we have Pyro, Daleks, Sukuna, and Uzi from, you know, that one, Murder Drones. That's it. So yes, we have a bunch of stuff. Of course, you know, if anything starts messing up with the stream or anything, let me know, and I'll be sure to fix that as soon as possible. Someone said Koro Sensei versus Monokuma. I should say also that none of the matchups from the original tournament are on here. There are some returning characters, but no returning matchups. But yeah, glad to see everyone's really getting into it. Are you able to say how many submissions? Honestly, I don't even know the full amount. I just know it was a crap ton. Way more than 64. Like, way more than the amount of matchups we have here. That's what I'll say. Chess versus checkers. I mean, there are some interesting ones. Maybe nothing as interesting as that, but I would say there are definitely some interesting ones. Yes, stream's broken. Pyro hasn't won instantly. How's your day going? My day is going good. I hope everyone else's day is going good. I'm really happy that you're deciding to spend your time here with me. I really appreciate that. But I think with that, we can probably get started. So again, there's going to be some instances of, you know, some pausing because I need to, like, you know, put all the poll values in. I can copy and paste them from a different tab, but I still have to do all of that manually. But of course, while I'm doing that, you can think about what you want to vote for. So I think for the first one, we will get started. Just making sure everything is looking good. Okay, and we are off. So for the first round of this Tournament of Champions, we have Vilgax versus Megatron, Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific, Pegasus Seiya versus Sailor Moon, and Din Djarin the Mandalorian versus Courier 6. So you guys can think about that while I input the poll values. Really hoping that this doesn't take like an annoyingly long time, but this is like my first time doing anything with polls, or live polls, I guess. So I will input all of that now, while you can think about that. Oh boy, yep, that's right, we're going. Let's go, okay. 2 values in, and I'm gonna have each one up for, I want to say, I see someone send a super chat, I will get to that in a second. I want to say I'm gonna have these up for like 2 minutes, because again, we don't want to waste too much time. The poll should be up. Let's see. Oh, Apex. Hey, Apex. Thank you so much. Get something from Taco Bell with this. I'll be sure to do that. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate the $5. Again, you know, super chats are not necessary, but I'm not going to be able to interact with the chat as much. So, you know, take with that information as you will. I will make sure to I will make sure to read the super chats though, because, you know, I have to, and I'll try to interact with everything as much as I can. Can't wait for the entire chat to flock to the closest Marvel versus DC matchup, like this moths to a taser. I mean, you never know what the audience is like, right? As far as the voting, it seems pretty close right now, actually. I think it's only showing me the it is really close. Yeah, Vilgax versus Megatron and Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific are basically tied right now. That's crazy. How many votes we have? We have 83, at least from what I'm seeing, we have 83 people. Pegasus Sailor team, we have a chance. I will also try to say which one I would have voted for afterwards. If you know me, though, I think this one's probably pretty obvious, which one I would vote for. I'm curious. I'm curious how close a lot of these are going to be, though. Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific is actually a good choice given the Smart Space Explorers connection. I mean, yeah, like, as far as, like, the powers go, and, like, you know, Marvel and DC does a lot of copycat powers, you know, you kind of default to Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man. But for, like, the deeper, you know, Space Explorer, intelligent connection, it's almost like, it's really like Mr. Fantastic has another doppelganger from DC, being Mr. Terrific, just in a different way, which is really cool. The winner gets a guaranteed episode. Yeah, I wish I worked for Deathbattle like that. All hail Vilgatron. I think that was one of the matchups that got suggested the most in my submission form. So I had to put that one first on the list. But as far as this, I mean, we're going to have to end this at some point. It's really cool, obviously, to see how it all, you know, goes over time. But I think we are going to have to end it. Again, I'm trying to give, like, 2 minutes for each one. Hey Raptor, how you doing? I'm doing good, Metal. I hope you're doing well as well. But I think it's been about 2 minutes. Now I think is the time to end the poll. And this means that Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man is the one that is moving on. With 99 votes. That's pretty cool. So I will now go back to this tab. So the way that this works also is, like, there's not really a way to format it so that you can just have, like, 4 matchups that go straight into one bracket, which is really annoying. I really wish this website did that. But all that really matters then is that we have this one that goes here, and then it also goes here. And I guess, which one technically got... Is the poll still up? Hang on. Which one technically got third. Does it say? Maybe it doesn't. Well, it doesn't really matter which one got third, because it doesn't matter which one's going there anyway. That doesn't look like Plastic Man. No, it doesn't. Plastic Man's changed it a little bit. I'm just going to put Pegasus Seiya versus Sailor Moon there, because again, even if, you know, they were tied, or there was, you know, Dinjarin versus Courier 6 technically won, again, this spot doesn't really matter, because all of them are funneling to this one anyway. So that's basically how it goes. So we have, like, how many rounds of this? Like, 16 of this. So we're gonna have, like, again, 64 matchups. So this is gonna take some time, but I'm really excited to see how you guys react to these matchups. So now we're gonna go back to standby, so I can set up the next one. Don't worry, not gonna take too much time. I just want to make sure nothing gets spoiled for you guys while I'm scrolling down. Now we can move to the next one. For this next round, we have Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao, Lugia versus Mothra, Kazuma Sato versus Subaru Natsuki, and Pyro versus Black Noir. So while you guys are mulling that over, I will take a minute to set up the poll for that one. I really wish there was a way I could, like, automate it or something, or, like, have them, you know, scheduled or ready to post whenever I want, but unfortunately, at least as far as I can tell, YouTube is not cool like that. So unfortunately, I have to input all of these manually. But again, it gives you guys some time to think, some time to talk, which I think is good. Oh, and also for the last round, because I said I would say which one I would vote for, I would have voted for Pegasus Seiya versus Sailor Moon if I was voting. Out of those four, that one was my favorite. I think we're good. We can start the poll now. And I looked it up. It said that YouTube said I could do as many polls as I wanted. So this should be fine, you know, going through all the polls. But yes, now we can take a look at that. So we got Pyro versus Black Noir currently in the lead. Pyro versus Noir is a pretty good matchup. Yeah, I would agree with that. I haven't talked about it that much on the channel, but it definitely has a very specific shtick that I think is pretty interesting. Oh, now Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao. Looks like that one's in the lead. Can it not just show me the whole poll? Yeah, it was just showing me a bunch of, like, it was just showing me the lead. And I want to see, like, what all the other ones are looking like. So yeah, it looks like Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao is in the lead, although Pyro versus Black Noir was in the lead at the very beginning. Hey, I read somewhere you could turn a sphere inside out. Screw you, Zero. I'm never gonna forget that. That's an inside joke. Don't worry about it. Subaru versus Kazuma. I mean, that one looks like it has the lowest amount of votes. Oh, it actually does say how long the polls are up for. Okay, so I can time it. I can time it pretty well then. Honestly, I prefer DCEU Ultraman for Black Noir. Do you mean like DCU? Because I don't think Ultraman was in the DCEU. If you mean like Ultraman from the new Superman movie, then I get what you're saying. I'm surprised DreamWorks is kind of underused for the companies given their iconic characters. For Deathbattle, yeah, like it feels like they have really easy characters as well to use for Deathbattle. Like, it's been Poe. And is that it? Has that been it so far? Yeah, oh god, the Hugbees video. Exactly, yeah, someone else gets it. Yeah. The way Raptor reacts to Stitch versus Rocket being announced is how I'll react to Puss versus Mao Mao if that's announced. That's awesome, man. That's cool. I hope it happens for you then. That is my preferred for Puss as well. Not to say it's the only one I would accept for Puss, but it would be my preferred. Konosuba is cringe, sadly. Okay, it looks like we are at 2 minutes. Not really much of a competition for this one, so I don't mind ending the poll right now. So we have, as the winner, Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao, which can then move on to this part. And then, again, for this one, I think Pyro versus Black Noir was technically one between these two, but again, it really doesn't matter. So now, stand by. It's looking like there are no technical difficulties yet, which is great. This should be less laggy than the last one. I went through and I figured out, like, I didn't have my OBS updated properly, and there were some issues as well with, like, how many layers I had in OBS, and I didn't need all of them. So this should look better than the last one, just by and large. Hopefully that actually holds true. But okay, now we can move on to the next round. For round number 3, we have Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic, Michelangelo versus Jay Walker, Springtrap versus Junko Enoshima, and Nostalgia Critic versus the Angry Video Game Nerd. So while you guys think about that, I will once again start the poll. And I have to remember to click start poll for everyone. I just can't like copy and paste it into nothing. But I will put that in here. Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic. Michelangelo versus Jay Walker. Springtrap versus Junko. I'm sure there's some very nice opinions about that one. Do I actually have enough characters? Yes, I do. Oh, no, I don't have enough characters for Angry Video Game Nerd, so I'm just going to do AVGN then. Because YouTube is stupid like that. Angry Video Game Nerd. Okay, now we can start the poll. And for the last round... Actually, what would I have voted for the last round? Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao. It would have been probably either Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao or Pyro versus Black Noir. I might have gone with Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao, though. If I really had to pick, but I might want some time to think about that. No fair, I like all of them. It do be like that sometimes, I know. And yeah, this should be pretty obvious at this point that I'm not just going for all my favorite matchups, because if I was, I would have gone for Last Ronin versus Old Man Logan over Mikey versus Jay. I still think Mikey versus Jay is cool, though, for Mikey specifically. Gotta go with Ass versus Bat Credit Card? Yeah, I know. I getcha. What is the poll looking like now? Oh, Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic, kind of running away with it. Words cannot describe how much I hate Jump Trap. I mean, for some people, yeah. Springtrap versus Junko, but Chucky is cool too. Yeah. What are the main ones for Springtrap now? I know he has like so many of them technically, but like the main ones it seems to me that people are talking about are Junko, Chucky, and Bendy, right? Those are the main. Nostalgia Critic versus Angry Video Game Nerd is cringe, but it's our cringe, yeah. I mean, you guys know how I feel about, you know, YouTuber fights by and large. You guys also know how I feel about Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic overall. But of course, this is not up to me, this is up to you guys. Out of all of these, well, I don't want to say which one I would vote for until it's over, because I don't want to sway anyone's opinions, although I probably wouldn't do that anyway. I guess the voting's almost done anyway, I can just say this. Even though I would prefer Old Man Logan versus Last Ronin, I think out of all these matchups in a vacuum, I like Mikey versus Jay the most. If I was voting with that in mind, though, thinking like I don't want Mikey versus Jay to happen because I want Old Man Logan versus Last Ronin, then honestly I'm not sure. I think Mikey versus Jay in a vacuum is far and away my favorite out of these. Bro is being a raptor? How could he? That's another inside joke from the server. What a raptor. Jesus Christ, guys. Okay, I think that's where we're going to end it. Very obvious what happened here, which means that Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic has moved on to the next round. And already, again, I'm forgetting what was next, but again, that doesn't really matter. So we can just, for this heat, Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic is moving on. Congratulations to that one. Please stand by as we get the next one. So to the people who was saying Daleks versus Sentinels, I'm sorry to say that you guessed it completely right. So we have Gordon Freeman versus Isaac Clarke. Half-Life versus Dead Space. We have Fushi versus Frieren, one of the many Frieren matchups that I've seen. Syndrome versus Titan, and the Sentinels versus the Daleks. So now I shall input those into the poll. Nope, don't start poll. I almost just started the poll with it saying yes and no, which would not have made any sense for this. But, yep, Gordon Freeman versus Isaac Clarke. And I gotta make sure, again, with this character count, I gotta make sure I'm not, going over the character count. But I don't think that should be an issue for this one. Nostalgia Critic versus Angry Video Game Nerd, I think, should have been, like, one of the biggest ones for that issue. But now we can start that poll. Yeah, Freeran, let's go. Yeah, I made sure to include some Champion Islands stuff for that. And while we're doing this, actually, I will just mark off which ones have won so far, just in case, we lose progress or anything. So that was Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man, Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao, and Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic. I'm just trying to keep this tab open. Syndrome Titan is so peak. Honestly, I have to agree. Syndrome, I don't really know the likelihood of it, because I feel like an animated movie character has to be pretty prominent for them to want to use them, because, you know, they just haven't used many of them. And these guys really have only been in one movie each. But you never know, right? Deathbattle is really unpredictable like that. Plastic Man. Why are we back on the Plastic Man? Oh, you're a matchup, all right. Just not a perfect one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, more DreamWorks would be awesome. I wish I could see the appeal of Syndrome versus Titan. I think it's mainly the personality of it. You know what I mean? Like, the banter, the interactions, the general theme of, you know, just losers. Losers with, you know, special abilities. And it looks like Titan versus Syndrome. Holy crap. That one's really running away with it. I love Doctor Who, so easy vote, low-key. Oh, did I keep saying Plastic Man? Oh, I might have said it when I was ticking stuff off. That's why. Okay. You've said Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man twice. I'm so sorry, guys. I mean Mr. Terrific, obviously. I've known Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man for a longer period of time, or that's been more going in my mind for a period of time. So, I apologize. I mean Mr. Terrific. And I gotta remember that because, you know, it moved on. But, yes, it's now been 2 minutes. I will end the poll. Absolutely no competition there. I was expecting probably either Syndrome versus Titan or Isaac Clarke versus Gordon Freeman to win. But okay. So that means we can now move on. I think you technically were there, but again, we can just... Did I click on you? Yep, there we go. So Syndrome versus Titan has moved on to the next round. Honestly, I do like to see that, though. I do like this matchup. Out of these four, I think I would have either voted for Syndrome versus Titan or Sentinels versus Daleks. I've gotten more into that one. I think that one is pretty cool. As like a robot time war. That sounds really awesome. So let me just tick that off really quickly. And now I will set up for the next one. Again, a lot of tab swapping. Not the most fast-paced stream in the world, but yeah, what are you going to do? For the next round, we have Harry Potter versus Percy Jackson, Sokka versus Usopp, Tatsumi versus Issei, and Flowey versus the Princess. Interested how you guys react to this group of matchups. I don't think we've gotten any super chats, but I'm always just really worried that I'm missing something. Give us something Raptor adjacent. What do you mean by that? There are definitely matchups on here that I would consider like among my favorites. Not to spoil anything, but I would definitely say that. Tatsumi versus Issei, and Flowey versus the Princess. Start poll. We are off. Okay. You may vote for round 5. Oh, someone's happy about Flowey versus Princess. Is that Harry Potter? Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure that's Harry Potter. Oh, there's an... Hang on, let me just get this ad out of the way. Yep. Those... Forget these stupid websites with all their ads. It's really annoying. Let's get you back up here. Flowey versus Princess's Peak. Love that cast. Yeah, that was a fun cast. I just wish it was closer. I mean, yeah, we wish every matchup was closer, right? That's the problem when you get too deep into versus debating. It's like not a lot of stuff is really debatable anymore. It kind of ruins the mystery. But the whole point of Deathbattle is that there is no mystery, right? Like, or we're trying to get as least of a mystery as possible, right? Dante preview just released, by the way. Yeah, that's just kind of the way the scheduling works. I'm not going to watch it anyway because I don't watch the previews. I don't want to spoil my reaction. But yeah, that would have released like basically right when this started. Everyone's saying that they saw a matchup for the next round, and to that I say, no, you didn't. I know that in order to get the advertisement out of the way, I need to, like, do some annoying things with the scrolling, so that might happen from time to time, that you technically get a taste of the next round. But it looks like, I mean, like, I could probably just end the poll right now. It's looking like there's not much, there's a huge discrepancy here. I think Ruby versus Makaru, that just because a matchup is a clear winner, it doesn't mean it's a bad matchup. I mean, I think we've had a number of episodes like that prove that. I do think, though, that if some matchups have, like, very similar qualities to each other, like, two matchups have, like, almost the exact same qualities, but one is closer, I think the one that's closer is better. I still think that's a better quality. Got it, we saw nothing. Good, yes, you're right about that. And with that, we can end the poll. Absolutely no contest whatsoever. I have no idea how close or far apart these polls are going to be. Honestly, I was a little worried about how close or how far some things were going to be after, like, seeing Vilgax versus Megatron and Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific, how close those ones were. I made sure to say it right this time. So we'll put you here, and up. You should move on to the next one. There we go. Okay. Yeah, the website's weird like that. Sometimes it just undoes what I'm doing. But now we can put this on standby. Okay, web page is loading weirdly. But I think we're good. Okay, so for the next one, now you're allowed to say that you can see this. Neo versus Kirito, Invincible versus Steven Universe, Sukuna versus Muzan, and Hatsune Miku, again from the from Champions Island, versus Barbie from Mattel. So now I will input that poll as well. Option, okay. Neo versus Kirito, I think, is another one that that I will be inputting, or not inputting, that I will be reviewing on Versus Matchup Review. I don't think it's the next episode, but, like, it became a poll on my channel, so it will get there eventually. And for the last round, I would have voted for Harry versus Percy. You guys know that one is on my top 50. Some of them is, like, if you've seen my videos before, you'll just know which one is my favorite out of them. What do we got? Okay, so we got Hatsune Miku versus Barbie. I mean, honestly, as unpredictable as I want to say this is, that's the one where I kind of expected, yeah, that one's probably going to win. I prefer Kermit for Miku, to be honest. I mean, I've heard that one a few times before, yeah. Hey, look, it's Michael Jackson! Yeah, it is. Okay, came to the conclusion that while Barbie has better matchups, this might just be Miku's best. For some characters, that's just the way it works, right? And it kind of just depends on what characters you want or what you want to see out of your matchups. Stop putting hydrogen bomb matchups against the coughing babies. I mean, again, I don't know how you guys are going to react to this stuff. If one matchup is going to win, you know, the whole thing anyway, like, everyone's eventually going to say, like, yes, this was our preferred matchup out of all 64, then that's just the way it's going to end up anyway, right? Okay. What about the Professor versus Kermit? I mean, yeah, there's always tons of matchups for tons of characters. Reading the chat's funny. Prefer Radiant Black for Invincible, personally? I probably would, too. Honestly, though, any Invincible matchup, or any mainstream Invincible matchup that's not, like, Gohan or Superboy, I think's fine. You know, like, I think they work to varying degrees, at least. Radiant Black might be my #1 for him, though. Gohan versus Invincible's more popular, in my opinion. I mean, yes, no, it absolutely is more popular. But again, the point of this is to just get a hodgepodge of different kinds of matchups. No, yeah, Miku versus Barbie is pretty big at this point. Barbie was not always her most popular matchup, but nowadays it's pretty solidly her most preferred. I like Invisible versus Nova. Haha. Call me Radiant Black the way I'm broke. Jesus Christ, dude. Okay, I think we can end the poll here. It's been 2 minutes. And Hatsune Miku versus Barbie completely destroyed that. So with that out of the way, and what came in second? Neo versus Kirito. Okay, so good for that one. Although very slightly compared to everything else. So with that, we can move you up here, you, and then you. And let me just make sure I'm still ticking off exactly what won. So it was Flowey versus Princess, and then Hatsune Miku versus Barbie. And for this one, which one would I have voted for? This one's tough, actually. I don't know. I mean, Invincible, like, I really like the series of Invincible, so I guess by that logic, maybe that's the one I would have voted for, but, like, again, I think there are other Invincible matchups I might prefer. Maybe then Neo versus Kirito, but that's tough. There's not really, like, a matchup here that I think is, like... And Neo versus Kirito fluctuates for me a lot, to be honest, so it's tough. I don't know which one I would necessarily vote for here. Maybe we can fix the framing a little bit. Okay, that's better. Okay, please hold as we get the next one. This one's probably going to be a little interesting. So we have Captain Marvelous, not Kamen Rider. Captain Marvelous versus Kamen Rider Decade, Emmett versus Jesse, Doomsday versus SCP-682, and Okarun and Momo versus Cloak and Dagger. Okarun and Momo are from Dawn to Dawn, by the way. Also, you can see a little hint of an ad, so I'm going to shift it back so you guys can't say that you're seeing stuff ahead of time. And there we go, we fixed it. That's why, by the way, I'm going, you know, I'm shifting back and forth between those screens, because I don't want you guys to see anything before you're supposed to see it. Okay, and let's... Emmett versus Jesse. Yeah, I said that right? I think I did. Now I'm so nervous that, like, I'm saying things wrong. Oh, and Captain Marvelous versus Kamen Rider Decade doesn't fit in the word count, so I'm gonna have to fix that as well. And now that I'm thinking about it, Okarun and Momo versus Cloak and Dagger might also have an issue with that. No, okay, it looks like that one's fine. I'm just gonna put versus Decade. You guys know it's Kamen Rider, or maybe a KM Decade. Yeah, so that's what I'll put for the poll. Just so it actually fits and I can actually send it out to you guys. Also, I really wish there was a way to, like, format this differently, because it's just, like, 4 matchups, like, on the side of the screen, and then, like, my head, and that's, like, all you can see, really. Like, I wish there was a way almost to put, like, 1, 2, 3, 4... Like, that would just be better framing. But this website really doesn't allow for a lot of, it doesn't allow for a lot of customization, unfortunately. What do we got winning? Okay, Doomsday versus SCP-682. I can see that. I can see people going for that one, yeah. How is Emmett not winning this? I mean, it's in second place, but not everyone's gonna think like you, right? Not everyone's gonna be... Yeah, I'm sorry. So I couldn't fit Kamen Rider Decade versus Captain Marvelous. There was not enough characters for it. So it's Kamen Rider... Oh, shit. I put KM, not KR. Yeah. I'm doing great. Yeah, no, clearly I'm doing great. We should exclusively see Raptor's beard. What, like, literally just zoom in on it? Nah. You can shorten Marvelous as Captain Marvelous or Gokai Red. Yeah, that was a fair option as well. All these are peak. I'm happy you like all of them. I'd say, yeah, overall, like, this might be one of my... None of these are, like, in my most wanted matchups or anything, but, like, as, like, an overall quality, I think this one is, like, among my favorite rounds. Just overall. Yeah, Kamen Rider. Yeah, sorry, guys. It's a Kamen... Damn, yeah, you guys really like that. Can I downvote Momo versus Dagger? No, you can't downvote anything. But I don't really think anything is gonna happen with that one. Extreme close-up, yeah. Recently I've been trying to figure out the logistics of SCP-2521 versus the Unknown. Yeah, you can definitely get some interesting... SCP matchups with that. My favorite right now, I would probably say, is Toru versus 096. But, you know, there are definitely some interesting ones you can come up with. But anyway, now I think we can end the poll. Not much more to say with this one. Doomsday versus SCP. Momo versus Dagger is actually so peak. I wish I thought that. I wanted to get at least one 2v2, right? Because I thought that would be more interesting. And then Emmett versus Jesse was second. So you know, yeah, just for fairness, we'll put Emmett versus Jesse up there. But then Doomsday versus SCP-682 is the one that takes it. Now this is the last. This marks the end of the first half. Afterwards, we need to go to the other side of the template, I guess. But this is round 8, so we're almost halfway done for the initial rounds, because then we have to go deeper and deeper until we get one more, right? But let me just write this down. It was Doomsday versus SCP-682. Okay. And there's a reason why I'm writing these down and not just leaving it for the computer, and you'll see why when we get there. But now we can move on to the next one. Hellboy versus Nero, Joseph Joestar versus Johnny Cage, Your Forger versus Beatrix Kiddo, and Omori versus Room. This marks our halfway point of the tournament. Start a poll. Again, I almost started the poll as yes or no. I think for one of these rounds, that's actually going to happen. I'm not going to catch myself in time. The character count should be good here, unless... Yeah, okay, so... Joseph Joestar versus Johnny Cage was fine. And then finally... Yeah, thank God I put all of these into, like, a document beforehand, because actually, like, typing all of these out one by one, that would just take forever. Now I'm just imagining this whole thing as an actual tournament arc between all these characters. That's interesting. And out of for the last round, which one would I have voted for? Maybe I would have done Emmett versus Jesse. Oh my God, $50, dude! Oh my fucking God. Have you watched the Chainsaw Man movie yet? If not, if you not, use this to buy a ticket. That's... Wow. Thank you. Okay, the last time someone actually donated $50, and what's your name, by the way? I should say the names of the people as well. Kinjorix101, thank you so much for the $50. Last time I did actually get a $50 donation, and I was really like, you know, please don't do that. Nowadays, although I did quit my job recently, so so I'm definitely not going to say no to money. I will say that. Of course, though, super chatting is not necessary. Please do not feel obligated to super chat. However, I do very, very much appreciate the donation, so thank you so much. I can't, like, I cannot express my gratitude for that kind of money just for me, right? So honestly, thank you. Anyway, sorry. Now back to looking at the poll. Okay, it's been a minute. Oh, really? Okay, I was not expecting Hellboy versus Nero to be winning this, honestly. I thought it was going to be Omori versus Room. And Omori versus Room is kind of close. But it looks like Hellboy versus Nero is up there. And it's that's my thumbnail as well. And definitely my favorite out of these matchups, because it's in my top 10. As far as I was trying to say, as far as the last round, probably what were they again? Maybe Emmett versus Jesse, or Doomsday versus SCP-6. Yeah, there were some good ones there. Probably either Emmett versus Jesse or Doomsday. Maybe Doomsday versus SCP-682. I might agree with you guys on that one. But okay. Being honest here, I actually hate Your versus Beatrix. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Hellboy Nero, come on. Omori versus Room is way better. Well, I think this is where we have to end the poll, because it's been 2 minutes. I don't know if too many things are going to change anyway. So, to my surprise, Hellboy versus Nero moves on to the next round. So now I have to change some of the formatting. So just give me a second while I do that. I think I can just put you back over here. Well, actually, first, let me scroll up, just make sure everything looks good. Everything should be where it is. And of course, friggin' taking forever to load yourself, even though you've already loaded yourself. It looks like everything is right. So this is what we have so far. Everything that's like in the middle of the screen right now, that is what is moving on to the next round. And of course, when we get there, I'll give you guys more information about how all that works. But this is what we have so far. That is Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific. I know it is. Okay, so now I will tick that off for the for my notes. And then I will put you on standby, and hopefully I can set this up properly. 'Cause, 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 'cause Is this more or less right? Hopefully it is. Now we can change it back. Okay, maybe a little further this way. Please. Now I can move my face as well, because otherwise I'd be blocking it. So now for the next little bit, we'll be looking like this, where everything is on this side of the screen. So for round 9, we have Yujiro versus Sportacus, Luigi versus Shaggy, Asta versus Natsu, and Blitzo versus Uzi Dorman. So I think that rounds out all the characters from the thumbnail for this video. Oh, we have another super chat. I will get to that after I put up this poll, because I need to do that first. And yes, I know that. Oh, there's even more. Okay, hang on. I will get through this quickly. I promise. Yeah, Uzi has a bunch of matchups. I don't even know if there's one that I would say is like, you know, amazing out of what I've seen. But, you know, Uzi versus Blitzo, I feel like that's the one that's going to get like the most amount of differing opinions. So that's the one I had to do. Seeing should have been Pepsi Man. No, well, again, like, I prefer Pepsi Man versus Sportacus, but it's not just about what I prefer, right? Anyway, now I'm going to scroll back up to make sure I can read all the super chats. It feels like Cage, Joestar, and Yor have better matchups. Sending chat out of spite because you said not to. Thank you, Con96 for the $10. I appreciate that. Joestar has a few of them. Joseph definitely has a few, yes. Although there are a decent amount of them that I actually would say I quite like. So that's one of those weird instances where I really want Joseph on the show, but I'm not that picky about who he fights because I think he has a few really good ones. But thank you so much for the $10. And for the $6.99, Josh Drake says, Hi Raptor, awesome to see you making Death Battle higher and higher. I have to ask, now that Blade vs. Buffy is out, who is in your top 50 now? I don't know. I don't really like trying to update this one by one because, of course, you know, it would just be a never-ending updating, right? But if I really had to pick one for, like, because when Ghost Rider vs. Spawn happened, Monokuma vs. Koro Sensei became my new top 50. Now, though, I don't know. I'll give you a few different options. It could be Spy versus Agent 47. It could be X versus Optimus Primal. Also, Darth Maul versus Judge Gabranth. That one I've gotten a lot more into, and maybe that one would become my new 50th. But again, those are just a few options. I don't know for sure. But thank you so much for the $7. Actually, I don't even know, like, is it doing it for Canadian dollars for me, or because I'm Canadian? I don't even. Oh, the $50 says 50 Canadian. The $10 just says 10. So maybe that's American. I don't know. But anyway, out of what we got, okay, so Luigi versus Shaggy, a little close with Yujiro versus Sportacus, not that close, but okay, so we have Luigi versus Shaggy. That has moved on to the next round. So Luigi versus Shaggy goes here. I think technically you were there, and then we have that. Okay, great. So Luigi versus Shaggy, I will tick that one off. That one is moving on to the next round. Or the next stage. I don't know. How do you define it? Because you can say the next round is the next set of matchups. You know what I mean? It's moving on. It is moving on. And now with that, maybe I'll shift you a little bit this way. Okay. Please stand by. Now you'll see my face going back and forth across the screen because I don't want to change it up too much. Please stop lagging on me while I set you up. That would be very nice. All right. For the next round, we have Shantae versus Shovel Knight, Eren Yeager versus Ken Kaneki, Patrick Star versus Goofy Dog, and Punisher versus Judge Dredd. This one is also like a very interesting set of matchups. Might technically be one of my, what I would consider one of the more well-rounded ones out of just the ones that I like, not like in general. Because everyone's going to have different opinions on that. But anyway, now we can put you in. Also, how is the stream going as far as like smoothness? Is it going like better than it was last time, or like are you still like experiencing like a bunch of lag? I don't think there's any audio lag. I don't think there's any audio lag. There wasn't any last time. But as far as like the visual stability. How is that going? I'm curious. I don't know how much I'm actually going to be able to fix, but I am curious about that. The poll is up now, by the way, so you guys can look at that. This is another instance where it should be pretty obvious where my allegiances lie for this one. For the last one, which one would I have gone for the last one? Probably Asta versus Natsu, actually. That's probably my favorite out of those four. That's what I would have voted for. There's not a lot of lag, but there's a delay on my end. I think there's a delay on everybody's end. I think sometimes that's just how YouTube works. My internet, though, thankfully is good enough that I can stream again. Because there was a while during my YouTube tenure that I just wasn't streaming at all because it just wasn't, like, my internet wasn't handling it. But now we got better internet a while back, and now I've been trying to stream more often because it's fun. I'm having a good time. I hope you guys are having a good time. Eren versus Ken might get me to keep reading and watching Tokyo Ghoul. I recommend reading it at least after season 1. When you get to like when season 2 would be, I'd say just read it, or just read it the whole way through if you want. Asta versus Natsu. Let's go, my son. Redeem you self. Yeah, no, I think Asta versus Natsu is pretty cool, actually. I think that one would be pretty cool. Patrick versus Goofy sounds great. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty, like, I don't want to say bare bones, but, like, pretty simple as far as, like, the idea, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I don't know if you're saying I like the Eren versus Kaneki thumbnail you made, or it's like the Eren versus Kaneki thumbnail you made. That is the one I made. If you're saying that you like it, I appreciate that a lot. That is probably one of my preferred thumbnails out of what I have made. And thankfully, it's not the closest in the world, but this one, it seems like there were some in the earlier rounds where, like, it was completely one-sided. Thankfully, we have some more varying opinions at this point. Is mayonnaise an instrument? No, this is Patrick. Oh, I love Patrick. Anyway, it's been 2 minutes. I think we can end the poll. So that is Eren versus Ken. Obviously, that's the one that I also would have voted for. So we can put Eren versus Ken. I'll be honest, I didn't see which one made it afterwards, but again, it doesn't matter. So Eren versus Ken, I will now put you ticked off. That one is now moving on to the next round. We just take a look at everything. Yourself, dang it. Also, guess what my least favorite matchup is. I don't know. Should I know what your least favorite matchup is? That was a pretty good neat Patrick impression. Okay, thank you guys. Great Patrick impression. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. You did it. Oh god, maybe I shouldn't have done anything. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for that. I appreciate that, but we have to move on. Anyway, stand by. On to the next round. Oh, this will be an interesting one. This is going to be an interesting round. For the next round, we have Indominus Rex versus Sharktopus, Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat, Rimuru Tempest versus Kirby, and Space Invaders versus Galaga. There's a pretty interesting selection here, I think. So let's see how it goes. Start a poll. Let's add your options. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm the teacher here. Talk amongst yourselves while I set up the lesson plan. Does Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus P the Cat have too many... oh, almost. It had almost too many characters. But thankfully it did not. Space Invaders versus Galaga. Okay, now we can start the poll. Yeah, interesting lineup. Yeah, this is a pretty interesting round. So, again, you're going to have very different opinions about the rounds or the matchups within the rounds. That's the point. The point is for it to be very weird. I hate that I'm voting Kirby versus Rimuru. I guess you don't like the matchups very much then. I'm sorry about that. Curse you, Barry the Platypus. My Doofenshmirtz is definitely... I wasn't even really trying. I don't want to commit to it. I think I would hurt my voice. But my Doofenshmirtz definitely isn't as good as my Patrick, I suppose. What about, like, Goofy? Goofy's like, oh, yo. I had a boy, Sora. Yeah. That one, you kind of have to get into it. The original voice actor, though, I think he went deeper, at least for some of it. Or was it the original? I don't know. How original do we get? Goofy didn't start off talking, did he? Because there was like the silent Goofy cartoons. I love those cartoons. Anything that, again, you know, I love Looney Tunes. Anything that goes into like that craziness, like for cartoons, or like the absurdity of it, I love that stuff. Voted Galaga versus Space Invaders for the lulz. Space Invaders versus Galaga, super underrated. Okay. Raptor needs to be a VA. I mean, that'd be fun. I don't know if I need to, but that would be a lot of fun. Something with my voice, like radio, is something I'm really passionate about. I took like a radio course in university and I fell in love with it. So with me now looking for another job, that would be really ideal to get involved in radio in some way. That's what I would really like. Even it doesn't even have to be like a voice thing, at least not to start, you know. I would like some kind of radio job. Something in media, right? Like that's I went to school for media. I'm doing media on this channel, you know. Indo versus Sharktopus is just really funny. Yeah, it is really funny. Although, which one's winning? I didn't actually look at this. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat. That one might be my preferred for Doofenshmirtz, actually, now. Did I say, actually, which one I voted for? Oh, yeah, Aaron versus Ken. That's what I would have voted for. Doof versus Petey might actually be my preferred for Doof now. Before, I might have said Dr. Draken from Kim Possible, but I do like Doof versus Petey. That one's pretty cool. Out of all of these ones, though, which would I have voted for? Maybe Doof versus Petey, actually. Indominus versus Sharktopus has a very specific appeal to it, a very specific charm to it that I like. So, okay, we will end the poll here. And it is Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat that is moving on to the next round. And also, I guess, Rimuru versus Kirby. You can put that one over here, but it was this one. This is the one that we got, yeah. Alrighty. Things are actually going pretty smoothly as far as just technology and all that. I think once we get further in, though, there are some other things I'm going to have to set up, but we will get there when we get there. I think this is round 12, and I will mark down that Doof versus Petey made it. Okay, so that's cool. And not to spoil too much, but this one is the Halloween round. Like how the Tournament of Champions had a Halloween round, this one is our Halloween round. So, again, though, I'm not repeating any matchups, though, so it's very possible you'll like the ones that were on the Tournament of Champions more. Like, I liked a lot of the ones that were in the Halloween round of the Tournament of Champions. But as far as this one, we have Ash Williams versus Frank West, Aya Brea versus Jill Valentine, Slenderman versus Siren Head, and the Universal Movie Monsters Battle Royale. So you can see there's like the Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, and I guess theoretically in your brain, like you can swap out whichever characters you want, like, or unless those are like the only ones, I don't know, but the point is just the idea of the Battle Royale. That is the matchup there. So now I will... Raptober! Oh, that's cool! Now I will put in all the options. I'm not giving any of these polls titles because I feel like you don't need them. You kind of know what you're here to do. Slenderman versus Siren Head. So both Slenderman and Ash Williams. So this actually has like a double... what is it? Oh, Universal Movie Monsters Battle Royale. That's too long. I'll have to fix that. But that's a double Champions Island thing. I'll just do BR. Or should I do BM to mess up my initials again? No, I'll do BR. Universal Movie Monsters Battle Royale. We will start the poll now. Ready? Missed opportunity to have Sarah Connor versus Ellen Ripley. I think for this one, I mainly went with what was suggested on the submissions poll. So that's kind of like how I narrowed it down. Some of the stuff when it's like, okay, I really need to narrow it down or something, I looked at the submissions. Because who submitted for that, I think, should get like some priority. For this stuff. I prefer Slenderman versus Sadako. Yeah, I've heard that one getting around a little bit too. Again, I'm not saying that these ones are the ones that are my preferred for every character. Like, again, there was, well, I don't want to spoil anything about later. But, like, I literally did Mikey versus Jay when, like, I much prefer Last Ronin versus Old Man Logan. So, yeah, this is not just, you know, my favorites. All of this is random. Or random from your perspective, you know. But even for, like, as far as what I like, yeah, it's random. Basically. Definitely, okay, so a lot of differing opinions on Slenderman versus Siren Head. If it was Slendako, I would have chose it. Yeah, a lot of Slenderman discourse, actually. A lot of you guys have very different opinions about Slenderman matchups. Oh, Aya versus... I was hoping Aya Brea versus Jill Valentine would have done a little better. A measly 6%. Although it is really close between the first two. Holy crap. With all the differing opinions, I would have imagined that Slenderman versus Siren Head probably wasn't getting enough votes. But the other two, yeah, it's a pretty tight race. But again, I'm not gonna keep it open forever. I hate Slenderman because he broke into my house and used my treadmill. Dude, that's so rude. What the fuck, Slenderman? Come on. Calling all the monsters. What other matchups are there for Slenderman, though? There's a few out there. I know Pennywise was a bigger one, like, back in the day. But if you're looking for, like, now, Sadako and Siren Head are two of the bigger ones. There are definitely other ones, though. Skeletober who? It's Raptober, yeah. Okay, it is close. I don't know if I just want to wait, because, like, I want to say, like, I want to wait to see what happens, but, like, what, am I just going to wait until it shifts over to the next, to Ash versus Frank? Like, that doesn't seem really fair, right? So, I think, for the sake of fairness, I'm just going to end it here. And I think, yes, okay, so it was incredibly close, like Vilgax versus Megatron and Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific, but the Universal Movie Monsters Battle Royale has won out. And honestly, I'm pretty happy about it. I'm pretty happy to see that. Out of all of these, which one would be my favorite? I might agree. I might also say Universal Movie Monsters. That one out of all of these might be my favorite. Although, again, not to say that Jill versus Aya was totally my favorite. I just kind of wish that one got a little bit more votes, because I think that one's a cool matchup. But now we can move on to the next round. For the next round, we have Dr. Manhattan versus Richard Nixon, Jenny Wakeman versus Robot Boy, Henry Stickmin versus The Second Coming, and Scott Pilgrim versus Travis Touchdown. So another returning character to this Tournament of Champions, just not the same matchup, naturally. And did I mark off? Nope, I will mark off who won the previous round, and now we can make another poll. We'd be able to do this a lot quicker if I could just, like, have these polls pre-made. Again, maybe if I were to do this again, maybe I would use, like, a third-party polling thing that I would link to. Just so I wouldn't have to do this all the time. But at least for now, like, it means you guys can just stay here and you don't have to worry about going anywhere else, which I don't think that's a bad thing. Yo, it's the matchup Raptor referred to as Travis Scott from Fortnite. Yeah, I did once say, I think Scott Pilgrim versus Travis Scott. But that was years ago at this point. I'm surprised anyone remembers that. Okay, so second Stickman. I mean, yeah, that one's kind of going away with it. I thought it might be close between that one and Dr. Manhattan versus Richard Nixon. But that one actually, Jenny Wakeman versus Robot Boy's in second right now. Okay. Let's go, stick figures. Oh shit, we're back to lopsided polls. You never know, right? You never know exactly what's gonna happen. And that's fine. You know, I'm learning all of this with you guys, right? So that's totally fine. Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming Stomps. Yeah, so this is more like Henry Stickmin also on the Champions Island. I can't believe it looks like Spider-Man is about to just get out, like right when Team Boomstick has to, like, or I guess it's everyone voting people off, but I can't, all the champions, but I can't believe Spider-Man seems like he's about to just get out of the running just like that. That is ridiculous to me. I understand maybe some people have, like, matchup reasons for it. It's still, like, how do you bring back, like, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, like, 3+ times each? Or you have them on the show 3+ times each? And yet Peter Parker's only been on once. I don't get it. We just got a Spider-Man episode. Yeah, and I guess I don't need it immediately, but, like, I want Peter Parker back, man. I'm sorry, I just do. Even if the matchup not a lot of people love, I would really like to just see him get the representation again. But anyway, I think we're almost at 2 minutes. It's not like, yeah, we're at 2 minutes. Okay, so it's not like this one's gonna change. This is also the one I would have voted for. I think that's pretty obvious. I will tick it off before I forget. But it is Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming that is moving on. I think you were technically second, but whatever. Okay, we can... How many more rounds do we have then? I think we have like 3 more rounds. So 3 more sets of 4 matchups. And then we can move on to narrowing it down any further. I'm now really excited to see what actually ends up winning everything. Although there were definitely some polls where, again, it was very one-sided. So I kind of have to imagine that if so many people are voting for all those, then one of the matchups that got like over 50% of the vote or something, that's probably going to end up winning the whole thing. But you never know, right? You never know who's going to join this. Of course, yeah, if you guys want to like share this around to people, like the more the merrier, right? The more people voting for it. If you want to like the video, that definitely helps like recommend it to more people. So if we can get more people in here, like as this thing goes on, like I think that's great. Of course though, you know, whatever you want to do. I'd appreciate it if you gave it a like though. Anyway, next up we have Kurumi Tokusaki versus Homura Akemi, Bendy versus Cuphead, Luke Skywalker versus Paul Atreides, and Black Hat versus Alistair. I mean, the Warden. Black Hat versus Warden. From Super Jail, specifically. Now we can make another poll. Yeah, Peter's matchups aren't agreed upon. I am aware of that. I understand for some people, they just don't like what he's got. But it's come to the... For me, it's like, not liking what a character has does not mean they shouldn't be on the show. Or they shouldn't come back. It just means that you're not going to be satisfied either way, and you kind of just have to accept it. Like, at least that's how I see it, because I just kind of roll with, you know, what we end up going with. Like, whatever happens is what happens, right? I don't think it means Peter shouldn't be on the show. Unless you're really trying to wait until he gets, like, a better matchup, so to speak, then I get it. But that's just me, right? Oh, wow, more love for Bendy Head than I was expecting, actually. Because I feel like that one's kind of fallen out of favor for a lot of people. What are your opinions on the Blue Ranger versus Spider-Man? It's okay. I get it. Feels kind of similar to, like, Spider-Man versus Donatello in terms of the appeals. So I get it. But I will agree that Peter Parker doesn't have, like, a very standout opponent. So I get it. But, again, I don't think that means that Spider-Man shouldn't be on the show. It just means that you take the lesser of the evils, right? For me, at least. Or you just accept whatever Deathbattle does, and you enjoy it anyway. I don't think it's that hard to enjoy an animation that's posted to YouTube with, you know, detailed analyses and all that. I'm really surprised that this is actually a legitimate shocker to me. That Bendy versus Cuphead is winning, especially by this margin. I thought that Bendy hasn't fallen off for YouTube viewers. I got that. I can understand that. But even still, like, even by this margin, I'm surprised that it's winning by this much. But that's cool. You know, I got no problem with it. Well, I can't have any problem with it. But okay, interesting. Kurumi Tokusaki Homura Akemi in second place right now. I am curious if that one would have been doing better under other circumstances. If you know, you know. But yeah, okay. Sly Cooper versus Lupin the Third. Well, you'll see if that one's on there. Again, I think there's 2 more rounds after this, and then after that, it's just we're going through all the ones that have already been on the list. If I do, like, if people really like this, I could do this again with completely different matchups, but people would really have to be interested in it, right? So doing it once at least, though, I'm really happy that we're doing this, because I think it's fun. Anyway, it's been 2 minutes. We can end the poll. And the winner, by quite a landslide, is Bendy versus Cuphead. And then between the 2 ones at the bottom, Black Hat versus Warden technically won by a little bit. Okay. So there, but then this one moves on. Out of these ones, Kurumi versus Homura is the one I would have voted for. And And yeah, for the last one, it would have been Henry versus Second Coming. But yeah, that's the one I definitely would have voted for if I was voting. I will tick you off. Okay, now we have 2 more rounds left to go. Are you guys excited? Please be excited. This is not boring, I promise. This is also another very interesting round. I'm curious what's going to happen with this one. For this round, we have Inuyasha versus Rin Okumura, or Okumura. Andrew Detmer versus Brandon Breyer. That's Chronicle versus Brightburn. Thomas the Tank Engine versus Lightning McQueen. And Arceus, or Arceus, or however the hell you pronounce it, versus Aslan from Chronicles of Narnia. So this is probably one of the more interesting rounds that we have today. I'm interested which one most people end up gravitating towards. Put that one in here. We'll put this one in here. And then after this, we have one more round. And then the rest of it is basically just going to be 1v1. Originally, I was going to have it so that it would be more like, a round of 4, like how we've been doing it so far. But the way that this is formatted, it kind of works better just to do 1v1s after this point. And you'll see why. Like, again, it's going to take some reformatting, but you'll be able to see why. Chronicle, fuck yeah. Pokemon versus Lions. Yeah, it's another Pokemon versus Lion matchup. I mean, yeah. I think Inuyasha deserves to be by now. I would agree with that. However you do it, I do agree that would be nice. We can frame you a little bit better. Okay. Right now we have Thomas versus Lightning McQueen winning. Honestly, if I had to guess, that's the one that I would have guessed would have won this one. Hello, the Raptor. Hello, Elijah. Thank you for joining. Unless you've been here, but if you just joined, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. How many people do we have voting right now? We have 131. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, actually, it's tied. Did it just get tied, or has it been tied this whole time? It only showed me originally the one that was winning. We have a tie right now between... Oh, wait, now Arceus... Is it Arceus? I'm going to say Arceus. And, well, now it's shifting back. It's even though it says 37 versus 37, it's highlighting which one technically has more votes. It's literally just going back and forth right now. That is crazy. This is one where I think, even if technically one of them has more... Oh, well, now Thomas versus Lightning is winning. I was going to say that if it was the same percent, even if one of them was technically winning, I would wait until the percent changed. But it looks like... Okay, now Arceus versus Aslan has gone down 1%. Okay. Come on, Thomas, my goat. I'm pretty sure Brightburn unironically loses to Homelander. Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's why I think Andrew versus Brandon is a lot better. Well, part of the reason why. I think it also just leverages a much more interesting common ground than the evil Superman thing. Oh, we have a $5. Oh, Seiya, you didn't actually answer. Did you see the Reze movie? No, I haven't. I have not seen it yet. So, okay. Thank you for the $5. But yes, you're right. I didn't actually answer that. I have not seen it yet. But I've been hearing very good things about it, which is awesome. You know, anime movies deserve the love too. But thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate it tons. Oh, now we're back to 37 versus 37. I'm pretty sure it's Arceus and not Arceus. I've seen it go back and forth, like, all the freaking time, man. Like, I've seen so many people have different opinions on that. Or, I don't know if it ever got confirmed. I know also, like, Rayquaza or Rayquaza, like, that also is weird. Okay, wait, okay, let me end the poll now before we get tied again. I think technically Thomas versus Lightning was also winning before, so that's fine. But yes, I think now that it's been 2 minutes, Thomas versus Lightning McQueen is the one that moves on. If I was the one that was voting for this, I think I either would have I might have gone with Andrew versus Brandon, to be honest. That one's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I don't think the Brightburn movie is really that good on most, like, actual filmmaking levels, but it did kind of recontextualize the quote-unquote superhero genre for me. in a way that's too long to explain for this stream, but I was happy I saw that movie. And again, like how, what is it? Chris Stuckman described it as like Chronicle meets Superman. I think that's totally accurate, but I think the Chronicle angle for a versus matchup is way more interesting than the evil Superman angle that you could also put him in, because we've seen that already, right? So it might be that one that I would vote for, but of course, it's not up for me to decide. We can now... I have no idea which of you two are winning. I'm just going to put you up. But we have you, and then we have you in this one. So that's good. And now we have one more round. One more round before we start actually narrowing things down even further. So, for the last round, we have Annihilus versus Larfleeze. Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. See, that's why Gohan wasn't put up against Invincible earlier. Dr. Zomboss versus Dr. Neo Cortex, and Kim Possible versus Carmen Sandiego. The new-ish Carmen Sandiego, I suppose. I'm gonna tick off Lightning versus Thomas before I forget, and now we can make the final poll of the noose of the initial rounds. And I'm gonna have to make even more polls for when we narrow things down further. Probably like the most physical activity I'm getting during a stream. Just for how much I've had to type. Not the most physical activity I get in general, I promise. I get more than that, but for a stream, this is like the most I've had to, like, you know, do tab swapping and all that. And copying and pasting. Gohan versus Invincible sucks. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But a lot of people don't, which is... You know, that's kind of the point of popularity, right? Okay, so Gohan versus Ultraman Zero looks to be in the lead currently. Gohan versus Ultraman is amazing. Yeah, that one is definitively my preferred for Gohan. I think that one is really cool. It's in my top 50. If you gave Invincible his crossover, then he wins. Like, I don't know why this whole crossover discourse is still going on as much as it is, because it's very clear that for the vast majority of the time, at least for Deathbattle, it just doesn't get included. Like, a lot of people like to always bring up, well, if you include Fortnite scaling, it's like, when did they do that? Like, unless you're joking about it. But a lot of people like to bring it up unironically as if, like, you know, it's going to happen. Like, there's a very real possibility that it's going to happen. And it's like, at this point, we kind of have to lower our expectations of that, because it just doesn't happen anymore, right? To the point where I think even just bringing up, like, well, if they give the crossover, like, okay, it's an if, but, like, it's almost like an inconsequential if at this point. Tony Sonic, thank you for the $10. Thank you so much. Putting Thomas the Tank Engine in Versus doesn't feel right. He's not meant to be a fighter, and what little feats he has aren't meant to be taken literally. Why do we do this? I mean, I do agree with that a little bit. I am a bit of a stickler for, like, who we should and shouldn't put. But again, the point of this is not my own biases. It's just what's interesting to put on a tournament. That's kind of how I decided these, right? So that's, I do agree, at least partially, I do agree with that sentiment. There are other instances, though, where you could say, well, they're not combat oriented, but they still work. Like, again, my general criteria is if they're not combat oriented at all, and if they follow, like, the regular, like, real world physics, then you might as well be using regular people, right? And that's when I think you can't cross that line. You can't put those people into Deathbattle, or at least you shouldn't. For me, though, like for Thomas versus Lightning, I don't know if I would say it fits into that so rigidly, but it's kind of like Garfield versus Snoopy to me, where it's like, I don't know if I want to see it, even if technically it doesn't fit into those rules. But again, I want to be consistent with my own rules and my own preferences. But anyway, which one do we have winning? We have Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. That's the one I would have voted for, and I'm very happy to see that. I thought, yeah, Zomboss versus Cortex, I would have assumed would have been second place. If not first, if not first. $2. Can you go back to doing who, when, and why videos? I would love to go back to doing who, when, and why videos. Well, first of all, thank you, Aaron Jackson, for the $2. I would love to go back to doing those videos if I had the time. I think I've said before that if I were to ever go back to doing them, I would do it in like a YouTube Shorts format, where it would basically just be 3 minutes of reasoning while going over like their capabilities and stuff, like across that. So that's what I would like to do. I really would like to do that, but you know, there's just not a lot of time these days. If there was enough of a demand for it and I was able to consistently find time for it, that might be a different story. But for doing them the way I did them before, at least, I think that would definitely take up way too much time. And even if I were to do it in the shorts way, like, it would still require a lot of editing, the same amount of research that I was doing before. So I don't know. It's always an I don't know. I'm open to it. I would love to do it if I had more time. If this was like my full-time job, my answer would be yes. That I would do it as part of my job because I'd be able to devote a lot more time to it. But the sad truth is this isn't my job, right? I do appreciate your super chats though. Again, I cannot express how much I appreciate that. But as far as like an actual job, I don't think YouTube's really ever gonna be that for me. And that's not a bad thing. Like, doing this niche, like this niche of a YouTube thing, it kind of limits me. It kind of puts like an artificial ceiling, because it's like, I'm never gonna get more subscribers than Deathbattle, right? Like that's all, like, that's a really high ceiling, but that's already kind of an obvious one, right? But there's also like certain milestones that I think a channel like this just, it's not really possible to hit it. And that's fine. I don't need to get the most amount of subscribers ever. I'm just doing this because I enjoy it. And if I was trying to force something that was more popular, then I probably wouldn't have fun with it. I might not keep going as long as I have. The only reason I've been doing YouTube as long as this is because I'm talking about stuff that I enjoy, right? That's the point. Do a who and a why for the winner of this tournament. I mean, that was something I actually did consider. Again, I am not promising anything, because if I do promise something, I know I'm going to end up taking it back at some point. Maybe I will do something with the winner. Like, maybe I'll give him a trailer. Maybe I'll do something else with it. Maybe I can insert it into a versus matchup review video if it hasn't already been covered. I don't know. I don't know, right? But the point is, at least this is just for fun. And maybe we'll see what happens later. Anyway, now I have to do some more reframing. So first I'll put you back over here. And also let's just scroll up actually. Everything that's in here, this should all be correct. Like everything that's in the middle of your screen, those should be the ones that are, moving on. And it looks like that's all correct. And before I forget, I will also tick off Gohan versus Ultraman Zero, which means we are now down to the final 16. Now what I have to do is I'm going to put this into matchup mode, which basically is just like a 1v1 thing. I couldn't do it in matchup mode the whole time because it's not just 1v1, right? But as far as now we're basically just going to be doing like rapid fire 1v1s. The problem with this though, and you'll see this after I'm finished reframing. How does the framing look now actually? If I were to put it back here. Well, I should make my own screen smaller at least. Yeah, I'm going to be shrinking myself down a little bit. Does this work? I know there's an ad in the way. Kind of wish there wasn't. Could I like scroll? Yeah, okay, I can scroll a little bit. Then maybe scroll back up. Yeah, okay, this is better. Okay, so unfortunately, the way matchup mode works is we have to redo everything. But I think that this, even though we have to go through everything and redo it, I think this is better than, again, just trying to do it the way we've been doing it currently, because the framing would just look completely off. This is much better as far as, like, framing goes, at least to me. So that's more or less center. Maybe I'll increase the size at some point, but this is at least workable. So now just bear with me. I could put you on the standby screen, but I feel like that's I feel like, you know, you're really like looking at nothing. So this doesn't matter because neither are you two won. Puss in Boots versus Mao Mao. You guys don't really matter. This is the reason why I wrote everything down, by the way, because I need to retrace my steps and do all of this again. And another bad thing about this is, and I'll make sure to get everything right, don't worry about that. Another bad thing about this is that we have to do the entire left side of the tournament before we move on to the right side, which means we're going to get down to the finalist on the left side before we do anything on the right side. So it's a little different from the other tournament, and probably a little confusing as I'm saying this out loud, but, crap, which one won for the... Okay, so it was neither of these ones. It was Flowey versus Princess. So just bear with me as I go through this. If there are any super chats coming in, I promise I will get to them when I can check the chat again. But right now I kind of just need to focus on this. So neither of you guys won. It was you who won. Yes. Okay, good. And then after that, it was neither of you two again. It was Doomsday versus SCP-682. For this one, it was Hellboy versus Nero. And it was neither of you guys. See, and now what happens then, instead of going to the right side of it, now, like, look at what we're doing now. Now we're kind of going even further into this. So it was so now this should be a lot simpler. So it was Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific that one. It was you that one. It was you. And then once we've done all of this, then we'll be going to the head-to-heads again. And it's just going to look a lot better than if we were to do it the way we've been doing it up to this point. It was you, and then it was Hellboy versus Nero. Okay, so now, this we can finally resume. Sorry about all that. And we're going to have to do it again when we get to the other side. Let me just pull up the chat really quickly. Okay, so now we can keep going. For this one, we have Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific versus Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau. So now these polls are only going to be 2 of them. So now I'm actually just going to type it because it's going to be too much. Mr. Fantastic versus Mr... Yeah, you know what? I might go back to the copy and pasting, actually, after this. Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific. Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau. And these are going to be a lot more rapid fire. Like, I may only keep these up for, like, a minute. Well, I mean, actually, we're doing pretty well on time, actually. I guess I don't need to do that. I was doing that thinking that it would take a lot more time. There was no reason for chat to get this heated. What happened? Oh, man. Did people, I missed a super chat. What? Okay, hang on. Okay, thank you so much for pointing that out. It didn't show up at the top, because I guess it was only $2. It didn't show up for that long. Hope I'm pronouncing this right. Marcelo Paulo 446. Thank you so much for the 2. Is that pounds or euros? I don't know. The winner gets a versus commission track. Again, if I worked for Deathbattle like that, that would be awesome. If it didn't already have one. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that tons. Did the chat actually get like heated or something? I don't know. Whatever. Looks like everything's pretty... Someone got really mad over Thomas versus Lightning winning. Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that, guy. Anyway, we now have 94 votes. Okay, so, again, if you guys want to... now that we're getting closer to the end, if you guys want to you know, share this around, you know, get more people voting, I definitely wouldn't mind that. But now we have... So we're up to a minute. Decently close. Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific leading a little bit. Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau is an awesome matchup. Puss in Boots is my favorite DreamWorks character. It's a shame how Mau Mau's show got canceled. Yeah. Whenever I think of, like, canceled shows that, like, shouldn't have got canceled, I always think of Spectacular Spider-Man. I really miss that. You got mentioned on Deathbattle. That is basically saying you work well with them, Raptor. You got mentioned on Deathbattle. It's basically just saying you work well with them, Raptor. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. But thank you, I guess. People were complaining over Thomas vs. Lang apparently not fitting Deathbattle for some reason, even though Smokey versus McGruff exists. I think a lot of that just comes down to how people view the characters. For some people, they're more protective over their favorite characters, and maybe they just don't want to see them in a versus debate setting, which is a perfectly fine opinion to have. I do think people should try to stay consistent with their own rules, though, which is what I try to do. I don't always do the best, but, like, I try my best with that, right? I do think people should be trying to do that. But sometimes it's just not really in their control, what they prefer or what they don't prefer. But it looks like Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific has won this one. Again, like, I don't know exactly how long I'm going to be leaving these up for. I was expecting it to be more of a rapid fire thing because I thought it was going to be significantly later than it is now. Although this means actually that once this whole thing is over, I can spend more time on the chat. That's great. I don't just only have to focus on super chats. But okay, now I will end that poll. 55 to 45. Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific. I haven't said Plastic Man accidentally, have I? Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific. That one moves on. So now we just click it and then we're done, right? Now we move on to the next one. So for the next one, we have Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic versus Syndrome versus Titan. So now with that, I think I'm just going to go back to copying and pasting, honestly. Even if it means I'm going to have to move around a little bit more across the dock. How many DC opponents does Reed have? I mean, he has, the big ones are Mr. Terrific and Plastic Man. Those are the main ones, but I guess you could also say Elongated Man if you really wanted to. But Mr. Terrific and Plastic Man, I think, are the biggest ones. Okay, Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic. Syndrome versus Titan. It is off. Most wanted matchup, please sell Metal, I'm begging. Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic is so unfair. Yeah, that's another one that's that has some varying opinions. You guys know, like, I'm not the biggest fan. Even though I like both the characters, I'm not the biggest fan of the matchup itself. But it's also not the worst thing I've ever seen. I totally get why there are a lot of people out there that like it. It's not like I'm thinking, how the heck did this catch on? Like, I get how it caught on. So don't worry about that. I see Reed was also third wheeling Rick versus the Doctor. I see that. Devil Artemis animating Cell versus Metal would be great. I think that would be great, yeah. Even better if he voices Cell. Yeah, he could voice Cell. You could get Takahata if you wanted to get, like, everyone involved. But if they wanted to limit the amount of people, then yeah, he could totally voice him too. Okay, so this one's a little more one-sided, but honestly, nothing has been, like, smashing out of the park yet, which I guess is fair because these are all matchups that the general chat likes, evidently, because they all got voted for earlier. Would you do this again with new matchups? I might. If enough people really liked this thing and if it did well enough views-wise and engagement-wise, then I could totally see myself doing it again. Probably not, like, another one this year or anything, but, like, yeah, at some point, I could see myself doing it again, if you guys like it. Both matchups are a banger. I would love to see Neo Metal Sonic in Metal Overlord form and Super form facing off Perfect Cell, or just Neo in his Super form versus Perfect Cell. Yeah, it could look sick. There is no doubt that it could look sick as hell. Okay, it's been, I think, almost 2 minutes. Yeah, it's been 2 minutes. I don't know how long I'm going to have these up on average. Maybe I thought it was going to be shorter than 2 minutes. Maybe it'll be longer than 2 minutes, depending on what happens. But there's not really anything that's going to be changing for this one. It's pretty obvious that that Cell versus Metal Sonic was taking it. Next up, we have Flowey versus the Princess versus Hatsune Miku versus Barbie. This is going to knock out a heavy hitter. Of course, it means a heavy hitter is going to move up even further in the world, but at very least, one of them is going to get knocked out. So we start with Flowey versus the Princess. And then... Nope, get rid of that. I did not want to add an option. Idiot. Now, here we go. This one I expect is going to be pretty close. Flowey versus the Princess is the best one here. I mean, some people are already going to be thinking, like, yeah, what am I going to vote for by the end of it? Of course, though, if what you want to vote for by the end of it doesn't make it, then you may have to change your opinion. Coughing Bomb versus Hydrogen Baby. That's a great way to put it. Yep, expectedly close. Yep. Flowey versus the Princess, a little bit ahead. Interesting. Who doesn't want to see Barbie throw a sun that Miku clashes with Miku Beam? Some of these characters, man, they have like the craziest things you've never heard of. And like I said, like for some of these votes, I want to keep it going just to see like how much it fluctuates. But then it's like, again, does that just mean I wait until the other, does it unconsciously mean that I wait until the other side starts winning? Like, that's not fair, right? So there's a point where I kind of have to be like, okay, it's been around the same time as the other ones. Do I just end it here? I don't really know how either fight would go, but names like Slay Out of Love and Plastic Idol are great names for a track, even if I just made them up. Good for you, man. Good for you. Thankfully, we can't change votes or this becomes rigged. I guess, yeah, technically I haven't really gone over which ones I would vote for. I mean, between the other ones, I guess, like, for the first... Oh, yeah, Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific, or Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau. That'd be pretty close. I might go... actually, I was going to say I might go Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau, but that's pretty close. And then Syndrome versus Titan or Cell versus Metal Sonic, I would have gone for Syndrome versus Titan, no question. But yeah, this one is remaining close. I don't really think it's fair to Flowey versus Princess if I just wait until it's like 50-50. And it's going back and forth between 51% and 52%. So it's close, but I think we're just going to end it here at 51%. Flowey versus Princess has moved on. Let me just wait for the poll to pop up on the actual YouTube chat. Yep, there we go. Okay, just want to make sure it processed properly. So Flowey versus the Princess. Congratulations, you have moved on. Oh, this is going to be a big one. We have Doomsday versus SCP-682 versus Hellboy versus Nero. I'm excited to see how this one goes. Obviously, I have my preferred out of these, but I think this one might be a close one. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. But we have that one, and we have this one. Start the poll. Every time it starts the poll, it refreshes my chat, and I can't see the chat for, 2 seconds. It's annoying. Nero lock-in. Nero's awesome. I would have preferred the next Devil May Cry episode to be Hellboy versus Nero, but Dante versus Clive, I think, especially being the Torian animation, I think that one could be sick as hell as well. I don't care about SCP matchups. Hellboy versus Nero has my vote. Okay, Doomsday versus SCP-682 by a good 10% difference so far has taken it. No, Hellboy versus Nero's losing. I mean, yeah, I would have preferred that one to win as well. Do not let that influence your votes, please. You should vote for what you like more. I imagine, though, for some people, they're going like, oh, eeny, meeny, miny, because they really don't care about some of these comparisons, I'm sure. Angry ass lizard lock-in. I just want to see Cell on no matter what, I think. See, again, that's kind of similar for me with Peter Parker, so I can get that. Cell is another character where I think he has a lot of prominent matchups, but not one that I'd be like, oh, this is obviously so much better than all the other options. And with Metal Sonic, I think my issue with Metal Sonic is that he's been on the show a ton already. Like, I kind of just think, well, not just that, it's also because Cell has so many other big options. That I kind of just think if it's easy to put him with someone new and you could still make a good episode about it, then why wouldn't you? But I can also understand the idea that we should be looking at matchups in a vacuum and not be trying to compare every death battle to every other death battle. So I understand that as well. Doomsday versus SCP-682 is an amazing matchup. Definitely conceptually at very least. It's a very, very interesting discussion. The Death Battle cast episode got me way more invested in, the debate and the discourse for it. At very least, yes. But it's been 2 minutes. I don't think this is going to be budging very much. We're averaging around 100 votes. That's pretty cool. I think we can end it here. Doomsday versus SCP-682 is the one that will now be advancing. And as I said before, the way that this works is we have to do the entire left side before we even start with the right side. So now we're going all the way back. We're not all the way back, but like right back to these guys. So we have Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific and Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic. Let me just type you in. Okay. The cast was peak, but more because of Liam's words on Superman versus the Hulk. Yeah. Or Superman and the Hulk. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I'm not going to repeat it because this is a Christian YouTube channel. No, I'm kidding. But even still, I won't repeat it anyway. But if you know, you know. But yep, now we've got two. Again, when we get to this stage, it's like both of these guys have won quite a bit. So naturally, they're both going to get a decent amount of votes. I don't think we're going to be seeing anything like 90 to 10. At least, I don't think so. I guess depends on what happens with Flowey versus the Princess, because that one's been consistently doing really well. And it was close last time, but probably just because it was Hatsune Miku versus Barbie. Yep, again, votes are close. Pretty well always going to be close, I think. Yes, yeah, very well said. Cell's matchups really depend on what you prefer for Cell. It's either perfection, evolution, or genetic makeup. A lot of different strings you can pull on for him. And I don't know if I would say that one is so obviously better than the others, right? So, kind of just depends on what you want. That matchup may be fantastic and terrific, but it isn't perfect. Haha, I see what you did there. This is one where I can definitely say, like, again, for the last one, Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific, versus Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau. I don't know which one I would have voted for there. Maybe Puss in Boots versus Mau Mau. For this one, though, definitely Mr. Fantastic versus Mr. Terrific. It's too late. Oh, your name. Yeah, say that again. Yeah. I'm at least happy we have a good Fantastic Four movie now, right? At least some people may not have enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. To me, like, out of all the movies, even though I don't think the 2005 and 2007 ones are absolute dog water, this one still gets the family. Like, it gets the characters overall the best, in my opinion. Overall. Obviously, there are still some other things, though, that the older movies did well. Oh, man, I didn't get to see First Steps. Oh, I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. Go see it when you get the chance. But okay. Yeah, now it's just going even further up for Cell Sonic. So I think we're going to end it there. Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic, once again, has taken... If you load for me, up there we go. Now we click it. There we go. That one has taken the spot. And now for this one. Flowey versus the Princess versus Doomsday versus SCP-682. I think I know what's going to happen here, but honestly, both of these have gotten a lot of support. So maybe I'll be surprised. We can start that poll. When it's only 1v1s at this point, it's a lot easier to copy and paste. Well, people love unfair matchups. I do agree that, you know, a fair matchup is better than an unfair matchup if the other qualities are more or less equal. But I also think that, like, fighting potential and connections between the characters, or just making the matchup itself make sense, unless the matchup is, like, horrendously one-sided, I would argue that those are better attributes to have, because true debatability with matchups are just not as common as we wish they were. Now that, you know, we've gotten this down to like a science, right? Yeah, this one is super close. Super close. Because again, Flowey versus the Princess beat out Miku versus Barbie by 1%, right? Or, you know, 51 to 49. And this one's now flip-flopping back and forth between 51-49 and 50-50. Yep, very even. Oh, now Doomsday versus SCP is taking it. Currently. 97 votes. I mean, this is going to be most of the votes that we get based on what we've seen before. I don't know how many people are joining just like midway through, but if you are joining, if you have joined recently, hey, thank you so much for joining. We're getting close-ish to the end of the, well, actually not really, because once we get this, then we have to do the final 1v1 to see what's the finalist of the left side, and then we have to do the entirety of the right side. So we're not really that close to the end, but like we're honing in on some things at least. It's save or be slayed. My number one priority is the connections, but also see a lot of importance on the abilities. Yeah, there are different things that just have different levels of importance for different people, for what matchups they like. Okay, we're at 105. It's been 2 minutes. I am pretty surprised, but is this how we're going? Has Flowey versus the Princess been knocked out by Doomsday versus SCP-682? I'll give it maybe a few more seconds. Oh, now it's even further. I think it has. I think it's been knocked out. I'll give it maybe like 5 more seconds, but I think this is where we end it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I think that's it. I think Doomsday versus SCP-682 has taken it. And then I think we immediately have them fighting again, right? Yes. So, of course, this being a bracket and all that, now we have Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic versus Doomsday versus SCP-682. I mean, it's obvious that, like, eventually you just, like, things just get closer and closer. Eventually, things that you thought were, like, juggernauts at the beginning of the tournament, they just have to get knocked out. There can only be one by the end of it, right? And I'm pretty sure whichever one wins this is the one that wins, not the whole thing, but the one that gets into the finalist. So then we do the entire right side, and whichever one of these two win, that's in the final round. And then we do the entire right side, then we get that down to 1 match, and then that's the final 1v1, and then it's over. Okay, a little more one-sided, but like still not one-sided at all. Still pretty damn close. Oh god, 2 supernovas. Yep. It's fun just, you know, sitting back and watching. As long as the stream is still going good. Seems like everyone's still able to understand me well. Doesn't look like I've missed any super chats. I think, you know, it's all... We're just chilling. We're chilling like Bob Dylan. It's all good. Unless you guys are stressing out about Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic having 2% less of the vote. It looks like we've had more or less the same group of people. We've had more or less the same group of people voting. Maybe some people have come in and out. But it's really cool to see, like, you know, just this specific group of people, what do they like? That's awesome. Doom 682 is like a 7 out of 10. Why is it doing so good? Right, because mid is like the worst thing something can be these days, right? So stupid. Hey the Raptor, do you remember fan-made shows on YouTube such as Super Mario Bros. Z and Super Mario Heroes of the Stars? The opening theme for Heroes of the Stars is goated. I remember those by name. I don't really think I consumed much of that, though. But if you're asking, do I remember of them? Yes. Yes, I did. How ironic Cell's other matchup is Doomsday. Well, Cell has a lot of matchups. I would not say Doomsday is one of Cell's better matchups either. And again, if they did Cell versus Metal Sonic, it'd be fun. It'd be cool. It would be cool. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. Admittedly, I'm very biased since I don't really like Metal Sonic versus Cell. I mean, eventually for some of these rounds, that's just what it's going to end up being, right? But it's been 2 minutes. I think we're pretty well done. I don't think this is going to budge very much. Even though it's close, it doesn't look like it's going to budge. Metal Sonic versus Doomsday kind of peak. I'm going to end the poll here. And Doomsday versus SCP-682 is just bulldozing through everything. Yeah, with 53% of the vote, it is moving on to when we finally get to the final round. And see, now we have to go through everything again, like go through all of the rounds that we already did. But again, just sit back and I will let you know when we are done with that. So Luigi versus Shaggy was the one that won this. For this one, doesn't matter. I really wish there was a way to just set this up, like, again, like, it could be not just 1v1s, even in matchup mode. That would just be a lot, that would just be a lot more interesting to me. Or not interesting, that'd be a lot more convenient. After that, it was, I'm pretty sure Duke versus PD won this one. Yep. I'll do Space Invaders versus Galaga, why not? This one, I'll do you. I think you technically had more, but then you were the one that won. After that, I remember it was Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming. So that's you. This one, again, to my surprise at least, was Bendy versus Cuphead. And then for this one, it was... Right, Thomas versus Lightning. That's right, that one won. And then it was Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. And then, doesn't matter. And then we just go through all the other ones, so... Again, you were the one that won. If you'll load for me, I would really appreciate that. I'm sorry, Patrick. You gotta go. You were the one that won. And it was you. And then you. Yep, it was you. Then you. We're almost done. You won, and then it was you. So now we are finally making our way through the rest of this. So for the first round, we have Luigi versus Shaggy versus Ken Kaneki versus Eren Yeager. What a fucking matchup this is. So weird. Anyway, I will get that set up for you guys. Yeah, it's weird going through like all the matchups again that didn't end up winning. Because I'm seeing some people are like, you know, oh, this one should have won. I mean, what should have won is what got the most votes. So it's going exactly as it should be. Unless I made some kind of mistake, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. Anyway, yes, what a contrast, exactly. We have Luigi versus Shaggy and Eren Yeager versus Ken Kaneki. Again, if you know me, you know which one I like more. I think out of everything, though, Eren versus Ken is my favorite out of all the matchups on here. Because, obviously, Hickam and Toothless versus Hero and Baymax wouldn't be on here because that was on the previous tournament, and I didn't put Mickey versus Bugs on here. So out of all of them, out of the matchups on this tournament, Eren versus Ken is my favorite, although it's looking really close right now. Luigi versus Shaggy is winning out by just a little bit. Happiness versus Depression. Yep. I think Eren versus Ken was winning as the votes were coming in, but now that they're solidifying, it looks like Luigi versus Shaggy might be taking it, because now it's 52 versus 48. What are your honest thoughts on Thomas versus McQueen? How do you think it would work? It'd be weird. It would definitely be a weird thing to watch visually. Again, like, as far as, like, actual, like, quote-unquote inhuman capabilities, that's a weird word to use for these guys. I know they have some, but just actually watching it visually would be quite strange. But yeah, I guess we'll, if it ever happens on Deathbattle, presumably it means that they know how to make it work, because again, I don't think it's a good idea for them to greenlight episodes knowing that they don't know yet how to make it work. Because you need to know how to make it work. Otherwise, it could fold in on itself and not actually be a good production. You need to make sure it's a good production before you actually greenlight it and start working on it. I feel like I've said this in like a ton of my streams. I'm sorry about that. You didn't put Mickey versus Bugs because it would be too unfair. I don't know if that's the reason I didn't put it on. I guess I didn't really feel like it. I feel like I've talked about Mickey versus Bug. Again, like, I only chose like a small selection of what I would consider to be my favorite matchups. And it just, maybe it was the amount of cartoons I had already. I don't know. because I also tried to get a pretty even split of like the kinds of media, like the forms of media for all these matchups. Maybe I just had a lot of cartoon matchups. So I'm like, okay, so out of my most wanted then, I won't do Mickey versus Bugs because we have too many cartoons. Anyway, I think we're basically done with this. As sad as I am to say it, it looks like Luigi versus Shaggy has taken it. So now we can go back here. Luigi versus Shaggy, congratulations. You beat out my favorite boy. Boy meaning matchup in this case. Okay, and then next up we have Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat versus the Universal Movie Monsters Battle Royale. If I had to guess again, I have a feeling I know which one is going to win this, but I could be wrong. Again, all of these have won at some point, so it's not like no one likes them. Great Luigi versus Shaggy one. Yeah, some people are happy. Happiness beats depression. There you go. Some people are happy, some people are sad. I'm a little disappointed. Hopefully Aaron versus Ken eventually happens. Luigi versus Shaggy is pretty fun too, though. I'll admit. But Ken versus Aaron, as far as like anime matchups go, like that is the one that I would say. Well, I don't know if I'd say it's most personal to me. Dan Kuso versus Jinga, that one's also pretty personal. But as far as like, you know, really like big anime series, like, you know, not ones that are just for kids, I guess. Aaron versus Ken is my anime matchup, I would say. Okay, I will say this is kind of what I expected. I expected the Movie Monsters Battle Royale to do well, but not better than like a standard 1v1 that some people would like really enjoy. Actually, I just noticed I haven't been drinking my water at all. I had more water because it was really fun. I just noticed like my lips are so dry. I haven't been drinking my water at all. Gotta make sure to do that more. But and the water's warm because I've had it out of the freezer or the fridge for too long. The Movie Monster Battle Royale will be very fitting to go against Luigi versus Shaggy. I mean, fair enough. Yeah, I guess Luigi versus Shaggy, if I really wanted to, I could have put that in the Halloween slot. Although then which one would I have taken out? I don't know. Either way, I think it's fine. I think it works fine. Hydration, yeah. It looks like this is pretty solidified. Again, it's almost 100 votes. That's about as much as we're getting right about now. I imagine some, because I think at some point we were getting like 150 votes. I imagine some people left when they realized like, oh, none of the matchups I like made it to the next level, so I'm just gonna dip. And that honestly, that makes sense. But I'm happy you guys at least feel like there are some matchups here that you can resonate with. I appreciate that. But it looks like that's basically it. Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat, I think, has taken it. I mean, like, at most I would give it like a few more seconds. There's no way it's going to change that much in a few seconds. So, congratulations, Doof versus Petey. You have beat out all of the monsters. Oh, this is a big one. Based on the votes I got before, like, this looks like it's going to be a big one. We have Henry Stickmin versus The Second Coming versus Bendy versus Cuphead. That will input right here. And remember, whichever one of these wins, like on this entire side or sector of the bracket, whichever one wins, that's going to go up against Doomsday versus SCP-682. That one's already a finalist. Normally, I wouldn't have wanted to do it that way, but it kind of just had to work out that way, based on the way that matchup mode works. I just wish there was more like customization. But out of all the bracket websites that I saw, this one looked the easiest for me to like stream with and to use images for, which is just better. Two ridiculous matches I'm going with Henry Stickmin. I certainly like Henry Stickmin versus The Second Coming significantly more, personally. This is actually significantly more uneven than I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie. I guess some people may still like Bendy versus Cuphead, but not more than Henry versus Second Coming. And I don't mind that personally. I do like that matchup more as well. Bendy head is dead, damn, once more. Yeah, this is the biggest mismatch, at least as far as matchup mode. Yeah, absolutely the biggest mismatch so far. We got a minute. Yeah, okay, so it's 70-30, hovering around there. I think, is there anything else to talk about while we're just waiting for the votes to come in? Again, I will be a lot more interactive with the chat once we're done. I do have a hard out today. In about, I want to say like an hour and 20 minutes is when I need to get off. But it's definitely not going to take that long to finish everything. So I'll definitely have more time to talk with you guys afterwards. We got 99 votes, 2 minutes. Maybe I'll wait until even though it's not going to change anything, maybe I'll wait until we get 100 votes. Yep, okay, there we go. We got 100 votes. So now I will end the poll. In my opinion, a pretty surprising. I expected Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming to win, I'll be honest. But considering the first round, I was not expecting it to be by that much of a difference. But Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. Sorry, this is just such a funny... a funny image right here. Thomas the Tank Engine versus Lightning McQueen versus Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. Yeah, hell yeah, let's do this, fam. Let's do this. Start a poll. Lightning versus Thomas. Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. This is another instance where I definitely have my preferred of these two, but we'll see what happens. I don't want Second Coming to win. I just want Doom 682 to lose. Okay, I mean, yeah, for some people that's their prerogative. And again, I don't think that's an unfair prerogative to have. Sometimes that's just more how your opinions line up with these. Come on, Gohan versus Ultraman Zero is way better. I mean, that's the one I want to win, and it looks like that one is currently running away with it. Not as much as Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming, but still decently far apart. Yeah, vote Thomas versus Lightning would be really funny, yeah. The humor, how funny it is, always has to be the deciding vote. This pick goes hard. Feel free to screenshot. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, just I didn't even think about like what would be like those two matchups that would inevitably be against each other. It's just, that's a funny image just to appear right in front of my face. Is Yang versus Vi on here? So we've gone through all of the matchups. Yang versus Vi did not make it on, but again, if people like this thing well enough, then maybe at some point in 2026 I can try it again. I really only have like one more plan to stream for this year, which is basically like a Death Battle 2024-2025 tier list sort of thing. That's really like the main, and then like a hangout afterwards as we normally do. That's kind of like my main plan for streaming for the rest of the year. So with that, yeah, I could do another Tournament of Champions, but not immediately, obviously. Yeah, just checking the... I misclicked. I meant to vote for Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. Oh, man, I'm sorry about that. I mean, I don't think you need to worry too much, though. It's not... doesn't look like it made that much of a difference. Of course, every vote counts, but it looks like it didn't make that much of a difference. Let's make tournaments until Thomas versus Lightning wins. I can say for sure that if I was doing another tournament, none of these would appear back on it. Because, like, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I have completely new matchups, you know, to add to the fun? Oh, calming music. I don't know what music is playing right now. I can't hear it. Should I check? Is it going to mess up? Oh, it's Frozen Fire. Okay. At least at this current moment it is. But anyway, I think we can end the poll here. Not much of a contest. Gohan versus Ultraman Zero has taken it. I'm happy that at least sometimes my preference also aligns with your preferences. And then I think, yep, Luigi versus Shaggy or Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat. This is the next round. After barely making it past Aaron versus Ken, now Luigi versus Shaggy takes on Doof versus Petey. Start your poll. Luigi versus Shaggy and Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Petey the Cat. Yeah, at least having only 2 options makes the poll making process a lot quicker. I appreciate that. Can't wait for Thomas and Lightning to beat Goku versus Superman 4 in Tournament of Champions 50. See, that's the thing, like, I could actually see Thomas versus Lightning making it onto a Tournament of Champions. But I could also see a lot of people voting for it, thinking just, oh, it would be funny if it wins, rather than thinking, oh no, well, I think it could work because of this and this and this. And like, I don't think that's, like, I think you should be voting for something because you think it could make a good episode, not because you want to silently laugh to yourself just because something unexpected won, right? That's how I see it, though. I know a lot of people disagree with that, and they're like, oh no, this has to happen because funny. Anytime anyone says because funny, I just, like, my brain breaks again, because, like, really? There will never ever be a Goku vs. Superman 4. I mean, to be fair, that is what we said about Goku vs. Superman 3 for the longest time, but I see no incentive to do a Goku vs. Superman 4. The incentive to do Goku vs. Superman 3 was to make one that they were incredibly proud of for once, and like by today's standards. And I just don't see an incentive like that coming back for it. Oh, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Ten Tails. I appreciate it. Thank you for the $5 super chat. What type of vote is this? Is this from the pitch or well-known matchups? These are all like completely random matchups. So there was stuff from a suggestion box. There's stuff that's like from my most wanted list. There's stuff that was on versus matchup review, like my own versus series. There's stuff that just I saw and I thought was cool, like from like nowhere, even on my channel, like just a bunch of random stuff. That's what the point of this is. Nothing like, nothing completely predetermined, just like as many different random things as I could get. Okay, it was flip-flopping a little bit before, but it looks like Luigi versus Shaggy has taken it. 53% versus 47%. The question is, Shaggy, will he have Ultra Instinct? I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, either way, Shaggy is pretty busted, regardless of what you look at. Luigi winning by doing nothing. Let's go! Yeah, I think we can end the poll here. It's 100 votes, 2 minutes. That's about where I kind of see, like, we can end it. It looks like Luigi versus Shaggy has knocked out Doof versus Petey. And what do we have next? Next is Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming versus Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. So many verses every time I'm trying to read all these out. Maybe I should just say against. Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming against Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. Start poll. I see we have another super chat. Thank you so much. Super Toy Thomas 1567. Thank you so much for the $5. Hey Raptor, what's your favorite Death Battle track? Oh god, this changes all the time. Sometimes it's super. Sometimes it's game over. I've been getting a lot more into You Say Danger. I think on my last stream I said that I prefer What's Up Danger and Strongest Alive over You Say Danger. Now I would put all 3 of those on the same level, honestly. I've gotten a lot more into that one. If you really want a solid answer right now, I might say Game Over, but it's really tough. The problem is there's so many great tracks. Originally, I would have said Reverse Rosé, and when I say originally, I mean like some years ago, but there's so many great ones. So Game Over is my de facto answer, but the truth is there are just so many of them that are great. I don't really think I can pick a solid one. Meanie Panini with the 4, again, whatever currency that is, thank you so much for the $4.99. I appreciate it tons. I am so happy that despite my cataract, Thomas versus McQueen won. Well, it did win earlier. It got knocked out by by Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. Although looking at the poll now, it looks like Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming is avenging Thomas versus McQueen quite heavily now. So yeah, but yeah, I'm glad that I'm glad you're happy that it made it through on the first round at least. Some of this stuff that's happening, like some of the matchups that are winning, I did expect it to go a certain way. Some of it, not as much. And there are some matchups where I'm thinking like, oh, well, if I didn't put it, like some matchups that are kind of just like bulldozing the competition, if I didn't put it in, this whole thing could have been different, right? Based on just like swapping like 1 or 2 matchups out for 1 or 2 other matchups, could have been completely different from before. And yes, again, thank you for the super chats. Anyone who does a super chat, I'm going to make sure to give like a longer answer, of course. Because those ones need the most attention, obviously. You can't super chat without, you know, getting some more attention. But of course, now it's at 2 minutes, 100 votes. I don't think, yeah, okay, just checking the chat. I don't think I missed anything. Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming with nice 69%. It has beat out Gohan versus Ultraman Zero. So we can click that. And then we have Luigi versus Shaggy versus Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. One more time, and then after this, we get to the final round. Start a poll. Luigi versus Shaggy. Where are you? Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. In here. Yeah, nice. Everyone's like, nice, yeah. Okay, we got one more before we get to the final 1v1. Henry versus Second Coming is third on my list. Second is Hank versus V1, and first is Yang versus Vi. Very cool. Yang versus Vi is, I think, a pretty interesting matchup. I don't know much about Hank versus V1, but Yang versus Vi, when I heard that matchup first, I was like, oh, that actually, like, I get that. That seems pretty cool. Come on, stick fight. And this is where Luigi versus Shaggy stomps. I mean, I don't know about that. The poll so far is favoring Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. Not as one-sided as we've seen it before, but also not close. I wanted to catch this at the start, but sudden technical issues while running video at double speed. I appreciate trying to catch up. And of course, this is a lot more interesting if you're able to catch it live rather than watching it back. You know, you're actually able to influence the votes. And I'm happy for everyone, again, who taking their time out of their very valuable day to just, you know, hang out with me, vote for some matchups, and all of that. And it's looking like Henry versus Second Coming is going to win this. And as far as the final round, ooh, we'll see about that one. I mean, for a lot of these, I think I would also be saying, like, yes, I'd also prefer Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming. It's not, though, in, like, my top 10, though. For a lot of people, it's almost like if they like it a lot. Whereas for me, it's like, I like it, probably not as much as a lot of other people who like it, but I still do really, really like it. $10 from 10 Tails, 10 Gaming, thank you. I'm curious, have you seen the Deathbattle cast? If so, what were your thoughts on Azrael versus King Orange? It was a joke, but people liked it and found a good connection. I actually think I did see part of it, and from what I remember, it seemed insane. Like, it seemed like a bunch of, like, battle-breaking stuff, from what I could tell. And not that that's a bad thing, I think in some instances that could be a really fun thing. I just remember, like, I think I went into it, like, partway through, and I was like, this sounds like one of the most buck wild things I've ever seen. I didn't know any context for it, though. I didn't know whether or not it was, like, a joke or something. But if it is a joke, then, you know, again, you know, if Deathbattle is actually considering it, then I think they need to make sure they can do it well. But at least as an interesting thing to talk about for a Deathbattle cast, seemed pretty interesting. But I think now we are at the 2-minute mark. Even if we get up to 100 votes, I really don't think it's going to be changing anything. I think we can end it here. Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming, once again, has taken out the competition. And I think this should just be the finale. Did I click it? Yes, I did. Okay, this is the final round, everybody. Red alert, this is the final round. We have Doomsday versus SCP-682. If I can find you on my document. I would have preferred if we could have done it more like in the way of the Tournament of Champions, like where we didn't know one of the final matchups like for like half the time, like we did for Doomsday versus SCP-682, but this was just easiest to do. And you know, it's all fine anyway. But I'm about to send the final poll. Let's see what happens. This is the final round. Everyone get your votes in. Even if you don't give a shit, everyone get your votes in. Oh yeah, they're coming in quick. Okay, Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming so far is a bit of a lead. Everyone's just rallying each other. Oh no, two of my favorite matchups. I mean, naturally, these are going to be ones that people like. Everyone in this, or I guess unless you joined late, but like a lot of people in this chat have voted for these matchups multiple times. About 2/3 of the vote, it looks like, for Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. But Doomsday versus SCP-682, you know, it's putting up a respectable fight. Not enough to win at this moment, but, you know, still. Honestly, no clue how SCP is scaled. I mean, don't concern yourself with that unless you feel you really have to. It will save you time and energy and will to live. Your voice has been heard. It's time to see you won the blank Raptors, the Raptors Tournament of Champions. I mean, what's it like? Welcome to the Tournament of Champions! Vote for your favorite match out of these 4 to happen next year on Deathbattle! And then what is it after that? Like, all champions get a say. And if you're not a champion yet, what are you waiting for? Come on, click the join button below and throw your hat in the ring today. That's the way it goes, right? I didn't feel like saying that for all of these rounds, but there, you get one of them. I guess people really like stick figure fights. It seems like they do, yeah. And I get it, like at some point you kind of want something a little different for Deathbattle, right? I think people just like these characters a lot too. Like the comparison. Okay, we're at about 100 votes. Almost. No, we are at 2 minutes. Okay, so 2 minutes, over 100 votes. Raptor, maybe don't play voice clips of Ringmaster if you don't know how to do impressions. I know that that's a compliment. So I appreciate that. I love the tournament even though I wasn't able to vote. Oh, did you join too late? I'm pretty sure everyone should have been able to... At least everyone who's able to chat should also be able to vote. Either way, I appreciate you joining in. I like that a lot. I appreciate that. I think... There's a part of me that wants to just have this running, but like I don't really see a point. I think the winner has been decided. I think we can end the poll. And your winner, I know I went through this before. I think the formatting is gonna get kind of weird, so I'm gonna have to fix that. But as I click this, I think it's gonna ask me to like download it or something, which I don't want to do. You'll actually load for me, please. I'll wait. We got nothing better to do. Oh, okay, no, it doesn't want me to download it. Okay. How does this look on my framing? I just wanted to make sure it's framed good. And for some reason, part of this isn't loading either. Which is stupid. Why do you do this to me, bro? Why? This thing loads in, like, really annoying ways. Anyway, let me zoom in. Make sure we get a good look at it. Your finale for the Tournament of Champions is Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming. Congratulations to everyone who wanted that one. I think I can make my box a little bigger now, although I don't know how long I'm going to be staying on this tab. I might just stay on the standby tab for more of it. But yes, it was a very, very tough fight for some of these matchups. For Henry versus Second Coming, it really went through pretty easily, I think. But you never know who people are going to vote for, right? But I am happy to all the people who really wanted Henry versus Second Coming on it. You can't defeat the Stickmans. I think someone said, I don't really care for Henry. I was like, I do really care for Henry versus Second Coming. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy you guys got what you wanted. I mean, obviously, most of you guys at least got what you wanted. You are the guys voting. So that's great. I don't know how easy it would be to, like, show the entire tab without, or, like, if I, like, zoom in. But then we get, like, a bunch of ads. Yeah, I don't know about that. You guys know what was on the, You guys know what was on it anyway, so I think it's fine. If I can just zoom in on this, yep, there we go. Yeah, Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. Congratulations on winning. Do you have any words you want to say for winning this very prestigious event? No? Okay, fair enough. But now, yeah, we're done. This was a fun time. This actually went not entirely smooth, but I think just because of the way that this website, like, sets things up, and the way I kind of had to navigate around it. But as far as, like, actual technical stuff, this actually went pretty smooth. Really, really happy to see that. Riveting commentary, yeah, exactly. So at this, yeah, I'm happy Doomsday versus SCP-682 got second. Yeah, that's really cool. A lot of matchups did really well. There were some matchups like Hellboy versus Nero and Eren Yeager versus Ken Kaneki. I'm very happy they got as far as they did. Did Hellboy versus Nero get past the second level? I don't know if it did. Probably didn't. Actually, let me check again, because I can see who it faced against. No, because Hellboy versus Nero went against Doomsday versus SCP-682 in the second level, so it didn't get past that. And I know Eren versus Ken didn't either, because it lost to Luigi versus Shaggy, but I was happy to see those get as far as they did. Gohan versus Ultraman Zero as well. I was happy to see that one. Who got third again? Well, there's not really, like, a third. If anything, it would be like a third and fourth that tied. So I think Luigi versus Shaggy, did that one tie for third? I think it did. And then which one did Doomsday versus SCP beat out at the end? I'm not sure. Oh, I think it was a Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic, that one. So Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic and Luigi versus Shaggy, those guys tied for third, you could basically say. Miku versus Barbie losing to Flowey versus Princess makes me wonder about Champions Island. Yeah, I can see that. I think Miku is still gonna be kept. I think a lot of people are still gonna try to keep her. But again, this is also about characters, not necessarily match. Like, some people might not always be thinking about the matchups. They might be thinking just more about the characters. So who knows? I think Miku is still gonna do very well, even if she's not gonna win the whole thing. Didn't miss any chats. Okay, so yeah, we can basically just hang out. Buy gold. Invest in gold. I need a job. So yeah, this is basically, this is basically like just, we can chat again, I think in about an hour or so. I mean, I might cut it off earlier than that, I don't know, but in about an hour or so is when I have to log off, because I have to be somewhere. I was a little concerned about this going on for too long, though. I was even thinking, should I start the stream earlier than I said I would, because I want to make sure I have enough time. Thankfully, there was actually more than enough time. I had to kind of tunnel my focus on the actual tournament a little bit, as opposed to chat, which I don't usually like doing. I like interacting with chat when I can, but now I can do it all I want, right? You have a good one. This was fun. I wish I knew about it a little sooner, but happy with the overall results. I mean, yeah, I try to let people know as much as I can. I think I did a community post 2 days ago. Same with telling people on Blue Sky. But yeah. And also, obviously, like with this standby filters, like obviously there is the Blue Sky and Discord links in the description if you're interested in that. Yeah, this, again, the main reason why I had this was because I wanted to shift between, matchups without, I wanted to shift between, you know, the rounds without like giving away too much. I remember with Neo versus Kirito, that one did get given away a little bit, but that was the main reason why I had this. But, you know, I think it also looks pretty decent. I could see myself reusing this for like just some standard streams as well if I'm not really showing anything. But of course, yes, the Discord and Blue Sky links are down below. Almost wondering, would I be able to actually like input? Because I think, I don't know if I want to keep the screen on this, but like maybe I could actually input an image into this. I could input the Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming image. Just give me a second, see if I can find it. Should be pretty easy. If you'll load for me. Yep, there you go. Browse. Okay, yep. Okay, so I put it in. You guys should be able to see that. Now let's see. I'll put it over top of this one. How about that? Because it is the winner, right? And which one's the image? I think it's technically this one. Yeah, we can just hide that one. Okay, cool. Yes, so there we go. Now we have a constant reminder of who won the tournament. Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming. Thank you for watching the Tournament of Champions. Yes, very well said. Thank you. Just wondering, what characters did you vote for on Champions Island? Well, the character that I submitted for it was Beast Boy. But as far as the characters that I voted to take off, oh, I'm trying to remember even which ones. I don't. Did I? I think I voted for Samus at least for one of them to get taken off. I will say, like, as interesting of an idea as the Champion Island is, it's a little weird, I think, to kind of make the decisions all about negatives rather than positives. Like, I understand that's how Survivor works, but it kind of just means that some people get a little more vicious, I think, about it. But it's still an interesting idea. I'm happy that Deathbattle is at least trying it. And if they don't want to do it, like that again, they don't have to, right? You again, even like with this stream, you never know how things are gonna go, because you can't predict that a lot of the time. I want to see Meta Knight go far. That'd be cool. Yeah, Meta Knight is one of the main characters I'd like to see win. He just seems really overdue, and I know he's another character where like not a lot of people can agree on a matchup for him, but he seems really overdue for this series. Honestly, he fits in perfectly for it. If you do another Tournament of Champions, can we pick the same matchup or have to be a different matchup for the next time? Anything that was on this tournament, I probably wouldn't use again. Because there's not really a reason to reuse matchups when I can just as easily use completely new ones that maybe have never been shown on the channel. Like, I've never brought up Space Invaders versus Galaga, but now I can say that I have, right? I think that's pretty cool. Say that one was on one of my streams. I'd really rather just do different match, and I do it like similarly. Like, I wouldn't, like, I'd get maybe like some suggestions from you guys, but I'd also you know, maybe use some of my favorite matchups, but also stuff from other videos, but just other interesting things that I see. Like, again, just a hodgepodge of various things. Maybe next time they do a thing like that, they will do it with series that haven't been on Deathbattle. I wouldn't mind them doing a champion event that revolved around that, actually. Regardless of how they did it, like, how things get narrowed down. If they were to kind of make the focus be, like, never before used series, I would be really interested in that, actually. I don't know if they would do that, though. Also, Raptor, where perchance can we submit these matchups? Is there perhaps a Discord of some sorts to maybe promote for people to join and submit their matchups for things like this? #ad. Well, again, the Discord wasn't really how I got matchups for this. It was partially my own, like figuring out what I wanted to use, but also like submissions on YouTube. But of course, yes, like there's matchup discussions going on the Discord all the time. So if you want to join the Discord, the link is down below. There's a bunch of links down below to other videos, to my Blue Sky account if you want to, you know, hear me tweet about stuff, you know, that's cool. But the Discord is very much there as well if you want to do that. Had a lot of fun watching. Wish I knew about submitting a matchup. Would have submitted Okarun versus Haley Ann Thomas, or Mukuro Ikusaba, I hope I'm pronouncing these right, versus Kaide Keano. I've got multiple pages on my list. Okay, cool. Yeah, unfortunately, I got a lot of, well, I don't want to say unfortunately I got a lot of submissions, but unfortunately there were a lot of submissions that just couldn't make it, right? I was considering how many matchups I wanted to do for this, and eventually I landed on 64. I think in an earlier draft of like trying to figure out this, I had over 100, but I think that just would have taken too long. I think people would have lost interest. I think doing it like twice as big as the original tournament, like that's a good enough selling point, right? You don't need to go too over the top with that, especially when it can make people lose interest. I think the next Champions event will be a Battle Royale where every submitted matchup gets put into a brawl to the death. There's a lot of different ways they could format Champion events. I don't think they're going to stop them because, you know, the Champions is how they make a lot of money. Aside from YouTube revenue, of course, and sponsorship deals, but the channel memberships are very, very big money makers for them as well. So I don't think they have any incentive to stop doing Champion events. No idea how it would look differently, though. I don't know if they would do another Tournament of Champions, though, which is part of the reason why I did this, right? Because you get to partake in another tournament when you have no idea whether or not Deathbattle is going to do something like that again. If I knew to submit, I would have fought bare tooth and nail to get Darkhold Iron Man versus the Man the Suit to make it in a tournament like this. Yeah, I've heard that one a little bit before, and I understand the shtick. I get it. Pretty interesting. I started watching Kamen Rider Geats, and let me say, he should get on the show at some point. That's one where I think, I don't know if he's going to go all the way, but it's one where I think there are going to definitely be people defending him and not voting for him to keep him in for a lot of the time. I could see that. Just check. Okay, I can finally close my tab now. I've had my phone open the entire time because just so I could keep track of everything properly. But it looks like, yeah, we can just relax basically. Looks like the back end of the stream is going well. I imagine if there was anything detrimental to it, you guys would have told me. So we haven't had any of that yet. I appreciate that. And I think overall, yes, I did figure out how to make this a smoother experience than my last stream, which if you didn't catch that, that was my tier listing stream where I did a bunch of tier lists in one stream. It's like a 4-hour long stream. That one went longer than I expected. This one went shorter than I expected. But I think overall, yeah, I updated my OBS. I took out a bunch of unused layers, which made my CPU a lot happier with what it was running. So that's good. And I think this is in 1920 by 1080p, whereas the last one was like 1280 by 720, I think. So yeah. Happy that I was able to figure all that out and get this to a generally higher level of quality, because I would like to do more streams. I said before that I was going to do one for December, and that is still the plan, I hope. I hope it's going to happen, but I do want to do more streams as well. God, I used to love Skylanders. Yeah, you know they're coming out with like Skylanders U2s. That's pretty interesting. Toys based on toys, except they don't go into a video game. Honestly, though, I think they look pretty cool. Regardless of that, and I have like way too many Funko Pops now, so I really have no, I have no reason to complain about that. Ash, Springtrap, and Slenderman are the three I'm rooting for, so I'm seeing a bit of a Halloween theme with that. That's pretty cool. Anyone doing any Halloween costumes or anything? I don't really think I am, but if anyone is, has some really cool Halloween plans, feel free to let us know. I'm debating about figuring my top 100 most wanted matchups. Should I? You can if you want. I figured out my top 50 specifically for a video, and I can guarantee that if I didn't make that into a video, I would have maybe felt that it wasn't so worth it to do. Because that was a lot of shifting through various matchups and trying to figure out what should be here, So if it's something where you're like, you really feel like you want to do it, then absolutely do it. I just know from my experience that even from doing top 50, I'm very happy that I made that into a video, because if I didn't, then it would have just been like, okay, so that was a lot of work for not really much of anything else. Because I would have been fine just knowing my top 10, right? Now I'm glad to say I know my top 50 more or less. But if you want to do it, like, I'm not trying to dissuade you. If you want to do it, go right ahead. How much would you like to see Skylanders on Deathbattle? Quite a lot. There are some matchups I hear for individual Skylanders characters where I think, I don't really know if that's the best. Excuse me. Obviously, Chaos has a few options. His biggest one, I think, right now is Lord Vortek. There's also Superhero Squad Doctor Doom, which I personally prefer more, but that's just me. Trigger Happy, I know he has Ziggs from League of Legends, which sounds pretty interesting. There are some other ones I've heard. I don't think all of them are amazing, but some of them could definitely work. I think bringing Chaos in at least has the potential to be really fun. Just make sure everything looks good. Music should still be playing. What song are we listening to right now? Again, I still don't have headphones. Actually, I tried inputting headphones in both my microphone and my computer, and it still didn't let me hear the music. But anyway, what song are we on right now? Devil of the Night. Okay. So this is Ryu versus... No, not Ryu versus Jin. This is Nightwing versus Daredevil, obviously. And I just realized you guys couldn't actually see that because I was on the other tab. But if I switch over... Yeah, right here. So this is the song that's playing right now. Before we had some people asking like, oh, what song is this? So in case anyone's wondering, I was just curious what we were listening to right now. But all right, pretty cool. Let me go back here. There we go. Glumshanks versus Kronk. Never would have thought of that on my own. I was so surprised to see God Usopp versus Sokka on here. Yeah, that's one where I was like, that one doesn't seem to get as much talk as it used to, but I want to include all different kinds of matchups. That includes matchups that maybe were popular earlier and not so much now. Or at least I don't think it's as popular as it used to be. I could see Deathbattle still doing it, though. Do you think unpopular series should be on Deathbattle? Yeah, of course I do. I think all kinds of series that work well in this format, quote-unquote, should be on Deathbattle, or like they definitely have good prospects of being on Deathbattle. I think the only problem, though, is that when we start to equate what we really want to see with what we think is going to happen. And I try really hard to not intersect those two ideas, because just because we may want something that's really unpopular, and you feel like, oh, it'd be so cool if Deathbattle did it, to the point where, like, they have to do it. No, they don't have to. You know, if something's unpopular, it's going to be unpopular. Obviously, things can change, like the popularity of matchups can change. But I'm just saying we have to remember that just because we may want something, it doesn't mean it will happen. Especially if something is unpopular. Because the popularity of a matchup, unfortunately, does affect the likelihood sometimes. Because Deathbattle really needs to make sure that they're making money with this stuff, right? Nixon verse, yeah. You could throw that in there too. Any thoughts on Wallace and Gromit versus Mr. Peabody and Sherman? Not before now, no. Interesting, I guess. Wallace and Gromit are awesome. And Mr. Peabody and Sherman, like, they had the more recent CG movie, but then they've had other stuff too, right? Wallace and... I don't think I've absorbed everything that Wallace and Gromit has done, and even then a lot of it was when I was younger. I don't remember all of it right now, but I loved Wallace and Gromit back in the day. And the new movie, I did see the newest movie for Wallace and Gromit. That was fun too. They still got it, I'm happy to say. If you want Marvel or DC, it will happen. That is a fact, yeah. We've seen that a bit. We have not had a Marvel versus DC since Martian Manhunter versus Silver Surfer. I do not expect that to keep up, but in case anyone was curious, and probably that means like from the middle of 2023 to, I'd say, like probably the middle of 2026, there'd be no Marvel or DC matchups, which of course, part of that is because of, you know, what matchups were shown on the Kickstarter. A lot of that is because of the break, you know, from the Rooster Teeth shutdown. But it's still just crazy to think out loud that, yeah, since 2023, and it's almost the end of 2025, no Marvel versus DC. Yeah, I think King K. Rool versus Blackbeard has gotten unpopular when it used to be very popular. I still like that one personally, but I get that. Kind of like, I thought it was more similar to Bendy versus Cuphead though. That's why I was surprised that Bendy versus Cuphead did as well in this as it did. Because I thought they had fallen off by like similar amounts. I was never really into Bendy versus Cuphead that much, although I do think it could still be fun if they did it. I don't think it being a legacy matchup is a bad thing, as I've said many times before. And King K. Rool versus Blackbeard I still think is funny. Like, I still think it's a fun idea. I've seen Optimus Prime versus T-Rex. Okay, I can see that. Some I'm not saying that yours is one of these, but some of the matchups I've seen for Skylanders feels like a desperate attempt to get a Skylanders character. Like, it's not because they think the matchup in a vacuum is actually good. It's because they think, you know, we want a Skylanders character, how do we do it? And that's like their prerogative when coming up with a matchup. And that's part of the reason why I can be hard on matchups sometimes, because I don't think the point of a matchup should be, well, we want this character or we want this kind of character, therefore we need to be in support of this. I think the matchup needs to be good on its own, you know, in a vacuum, right? So that's kind of why I say for some Skylanders matchups, I don't love them, because it feels very much like, we made this matchup because we want a Skylanders character, and like that's it. And this is like the most fitting we can find for them. Skylanders have feats and good animation potential. They just share feats, or they share scaling. Yeah. Yeah. No, Skylanders can definitely work. There's no doubt about that. I would love to see Skylanders on the show in a legitimately good matchup. I think Chaos versus Vortex is insanely good on its own. I would agree with that. Also, Chaos versus Superhero Squad Doctor Doom. I like that one a little more, to be honest. But that's another one where I would say, yes, in a vacuum, I think that one is good, yes. Let's get another drink. Did you see the Bigfoot versus Loch Ness Monster cast? I did not. I did see that it was posted, but I didn't have time to watch it that day. I did actually get back from Scotland. I think some of you guys know this if you saw my Ruby versus Maka reaction at the beginning of it. Like, I literally just flew in from Scotland. I was late getting to that reaction because I was traveling back home. And there was a whole tour that we did about the Loch Ness Monster. That was fun. And we have a little Loch Ness Monster in the house as well. One that we brought back from vacation, but another one that my dad has had for a while, like a little statue. Because he's of Scottish descent. That's part of the reason why my brother and I went to Scotland. It was just the two of us, so that was a fun time. Honestly, I think wanting anything from a series in general is fine if the unique elements come from that series as a whole. Yeah. As long as it can work in a death battle, like it has all the right ingredients to make a good death battle episode, then yes. A series, whether it's unpopular or not, like, you can want whatever you want. There's no problem with that. Like I said, though, I do think there are times where the want to get something into Death Battle overshadows or overwhelms the thought of, well, we have to make a legitimately good matchup. And again, I'm not saying there are no good Skylanders matchups. I'm not saying there's no good of whatever series for matchups. I'm just saying there are some where I see them and I think, well, that's probably only made because they want this series on the show. I mean, the only other Skylanders matchup I can think of is Knuckles versus Terrafin, but personally I prefer Knuckles versus Piccolo instead. Yeah, I've heard of Knuckles versus Terrafin. It's funny when you look at all the connections that when you look at the connections that they have, it does actually get pretty funny, yeah. There are other Skylanders matchups out there, but a lot of them feel like very like one-off Skylanders versus like other like one-off characters. Again, Trigger Happy versus Ziggs. That's one I think actually works decently well. But there are other ones where it kind of feels like a little more random, I guess. Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me that either you haven't heard of them or you just don't really remember them. Yeah, I wouldn't say I want a character just for the sake of the series, yeah. Or you don't want to, yeah, basically. There's Zero versus Crypt King, RVB versus Skylanders. Yeah, again, there's a lot of ones you can throw out, because Skylanders just have a lot of characters. Skylanders has a lot of characters, so there's a lot of different combinations you can make. Swap abilities, if you will. Daisy versus Caulifla? I don't know how to pronounce that character, but that's the Dragon Ball character. I know who you're talking about. Okay, interesting idea. Who have I heard for Daisy before? I've technically heard Daisy versus Blaze, but I think Blaze is starting to get other more prominent ideas. Okay, interesting idea. I'm not a fan of the idea Momo and Okarun versus Cloak and Dagger. I don't even know that much about that matchup, to be honest. I'm not that into Don. But that is one where I'm like, okay, this one's getting a little bit of traction. Let's just put it on the tournament. Point of the tournament was not to get like the best of the best matchups, in my opinion, or anyone else's opinion. It was just to get a good variety of stuff, right? That was the point. If it were to come down to Miku versus Barbie and Springtrap versus Junko, who would you vote for? Well, the way it works, I think we're gonna find out who the final combatant is before we start voting on matchups. To my knowledge, I don't think they're gonna be doing like, we get to like the final 2 characters and then we vote for like matchups for them. But if you just mean more so like which of those matchups would I prefer in a vacuum, I don't know. Maybe Miku versus Barbie, but neither of them are like really that high up there for me. I find with a lot of these tournaments, this doesn't really apply to like Wile versus Tom, because even though there were other matchups that I wanted more than Wile versus Tom, I was still happy to see that one win. But I find with like a lot of characters that people want, or a lot of matchups that people want, it doesn't really align with me. Like Springtrap and Hatsune Miku are not really like 2 of my most wanted characters for Deathbattle, which that's a video I've considered making multiple times, by the way. I might still make it at some point. But those are really never characters that I'm thinking like, oh yeah, they're at the top of my list for most wanted. And I'm not saying that I have to be in the majority or people have to agree with me. It's just something I've noticed. If it were any other Springtrap matchup, I vote for him, but I don't know, it's close. Yeah, I understand. There's a lot of differing opinions. Like, there really isn't a front runner for him. There are 3 front runners for him. Most places I've seen, I think Junko gets like a little more support, but I could also just not be looking in the right places. I'm totally aware of that. So if it were to come down to a vote for Springtrap, if Springtrap won the Champions Island and then it were to come to a final vote for the matchups, I might predict that Junko would win that, but could be wrong. I don't know how all the champions specifically would decide to vote. If I had to pick a Skylander that I want in Death Battle, probably be Tree Rex against Groot. I've seen a few Groot matchups, yeah. More Guardians representation, I'd like that. If there was any Guardians representation I wanted, obviously that's Rocket Raccoon, which we got. But yeah, Groot on the show would be fun too. Yeah, and even right now, people are talking about, yeah, their preferred Springtrap matchups. And it's going to be different. And it's not even just those 3, by the way. Like, I focus on those 3 being Junko, Bendy, and Chucky, because I think those are the ones that are most likely to win a vote. But Springtrap has more on top of that. I've seen Springtrap versus the Monster House from Monster House. Like, I've seen that one. I've seen Springtrap versus Ruvik from... I don't even remember the series right now, but maybe someone can tell me. But I've seen a lot of Springtrap matchups on top. There was also like Springtrap versus Dio. That was more popular back in the day. Springtrap versus, I think it was Scarecrow. He has a lot of matchups out there, but now we've at least gotten it down to 3, I think, as far as popularity. So who won? It was this, my good man. It was Henry Stickmin versus the Second Coming. I'm keeping this one up on the keeping it up here just for everyone to see that, yes, this was the one that won. Second place was Doomsday versus SCP-682, and then tied for third place was Luigi versus Shaggy, and Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic. So those were the 4 of the 64 that did the best. And of course, you can always rewatch this stream if you want to see exactly how everything worked out. What non-traditional death battles do you want to see possibly? I guess it depends on what you mean by non-traditional. I guess, would we consider... I don't know if we consider Doomsday versus SCP-682 non-traditional. It depends on what's different about those matchups that you're looking at. So, yeah, I don't know. Usually, again, though, sometimes I think non-traditional overlaps a little too much with, can we actually make this work? I don't want something to be so non-traditional that it actually just doesn't really make for a good death battle production. Not to say that there's no, there's no version of that couldn't work. Like, I think there are non-traditional quote-unquote death battles that could be made into good episodes. But again, sometimes I think some people really focus too much on, like, the crossover aspect, or how interesting something would be, to the point where they kind of elect to ignore what actually makes a good episode, right? And I think something needs to make a good episode for it to be an episode. I think that's kind of obvious. Light versus Columbo, okay, yeah. Although, to be fair, stuff like that I think works better as a bonus episode. If you're trying to say what non-traditional episode you want, I'd want as like a real episode, then I don't know. But there are definitely versions of stuff like Light versus Columbo where I think they could work really well as a bonus episode. I'm very happy that Light versus Columbo is being done as a bonus episode, because at least, you know, they can do whatever the hell they want with it, right? And they're not, like, tied down to normal death battle rules. At least not all the way through. How much water we got? Eh, not that much. Now I'm just realizing how thirsty I am, now that we've gone through all of this. I'll be honest, I'd like Junko Trap more if I played Danganronpa. I mean, yeah, for some people, some people don't like matchups because just of their lack of familiarity with the source material. And that's not a problem. That's just the way it is for some people. Because there's some people where I'm thinking, like, how can you not like this matchup? Or how the hell do you like this one? And I'm thinking, like, it's probably because you guys have just absorbed or consumed different media. That might be a big reason for it. Or you just like different things out of your matchups. The fact of the matter, these are all opinions at the end of the day. Just because you feel very strongly about your own does not mean it's something that everyone else should conform to or have to conform to. It doesn't invalidate anybody else's. These are all just hypothetical matchups at the end of the day. They're all things that we like talking about, but we are going to disagree. Literally, debating means arguing, which is built on disagreements, right? And some people, it seems like they can't handle being in a community where a lot of people disagree with them. And it's like, then, I don't know, this probably isn't the community for you. You might want to go join that fanfiction community instead, otherwise. Hello, my double mint comrade. Hello, Sack. Very happy to see you here. Hope you're doing well. It's something that almost got Sakuya Izuyoi eliminated on last week's elimination poll. Yeah. But that also plays into what I was saying about the popularity thing. That some things are kind of just held back by being less popular. And I'm not saying Death Battle should do very unpopular things all the time, because I don't want the videos to get fewer and fewer views to the point where they have to, like, you know, stop doing Death Battle, right? They need to do whatever it takes to keep Death Battle afloat. We now know what it looks like when Death Battle is at risk of stopping, and we don't want that. I do think it is up to Death Battle a lot of the time to pick out more unpopular series, because I don't think stuff like champion events are really going to be helpful for that, because a lot of the time popular stuff is just going to win with that. So I think it's mostly up to Death Battle to do that themselves, but they also, I don't think they can do it all the time, as much as some of us may want them to do more like niche things. again, we don't want the series to go under, right? Have you seen the fan battle for Skylanders? It's peak. I have not, but that sounds like something interesting. Wait, did I miss anything? I don't know how long you've been gone, or I don't know how long you've been gone, or if something has been lagging or whatnot. But the tournament is over. Henry Stickmin versus Second Coming has reigned supreme for the tournament. What is the most popular new series that they could bring on right now? Most popular new one. Well, new anime I think can work. Because, like, the manga... Well, I guess it depends on how... Because if the manga's been around for a while, you might not call it a new series anymore. But, like, newer anime, I think, sometimes is easy to bring in. Although, of course, people have complaints and they're like, well, this character's going to get stronger later, so you have to wait. So there's kind of two sides of that coin. What's something that's, like, really exploded right now, though? Something that, like that's kind of just been taking the world by storm. That's, like, really, really new. I mean, like, even Clive right now, like, I know Final Fantasy is not a new franchise, but, like, Final Fantasy 16, that I think to date is the youngest character that we've seen on Deathbattle, right? I think, from this point. K-pop Demon Hunters, yeah, okay, that's a good one for that, yeah. I did consider putting Rumi versus Luna Snow on this tournament, actually. I think in one of the drafts it was on it. Didn't make it in, though, but I did see K-pop Demon Hunters, and I enjoyed it. And also, yes, I'm seeing Don to Don, popular new series. Yes, for sure, that one, too. Yeah, I enjoy K-pop Demon Hunters, for sure. Real Deathbattle fans can't read. I mean, I'm not going to call anybody out, but I have seen a lot of stuff on the internet that does not help that accusation. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to offend anybody. Skylanders, obviously. Well, Skylanders isn't really that new anymore, unfortunately. It feels new to me. Started in 2011, 14 years ago. Jesus Christ. And yeah, we haven't had a new, like, mainline Skylanders game since, what, 2016? It was really impressive they were able to make one, like, every year. But yeah, Imaginators was 2016. No Skylanders 7, unfortunately. I would really like one. Skylanders, the ultimate anime. Yeah. A series I'm surprised they haven't done yet is Call of Duty. Yeah, I can agree with that. Sounds like something they would have at least tried once. They're not using video games as much as they used to. Although, some of the stuff in, like, 2024, 2025, they have been using more video games than they did in, say, like, Season 10. Where at the beginning of the show, they were basically, like, just doing video games. I know they were doing series that, like, Ben was, like, more familiar with. I know that's kind of how they did it to, like, really, like, get things started, and I think that's totally fair. But that means that compared to today, they were doing a lot more video games than they're doing now. I'm seeing some Richtofen. Am I pronouncing that right? I need Medic versus Richtofen. I'm just saying... oh, it's that same thing. Okay, Medic. Yeah. Okay, so yes, a lot of people... Yeah, the very next one's a video game fight. I know. And they did, like, 3 video game versus video game fights in a row earlier. So they're kind of bringing it back a little bit, which I appreciate. But there was certainly a time during Season 9 and 10 where... And especially fighting games... They don't seem to be that interested in using fighting games anymore, which saddens me a little bit, although I still hold to it. There are some fighting game matchups that, you know, are kind of more base level in terms of the connections. So maybe they're just trying to prioritize better matchups. But I still think there are other good matchups you can make out of using fighting game characters. Scorpion versus Wolf, for instance. So, yes, they are bringing it back. I think they're improving, but... Maybe still just a slight decline from what I've seen before. Would have said a Luffy if One Piece is still ongoing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got that. Rick Toffin is how it's said. Okay. Toff. Gotcha. I miss when half the season lineup was just fighting game characters, to be fair. I don't know if I'd say I miss it, but I get what you're saying. You know, those were like the good old days. I think they could be using more fighting game characters than they were before. Like, they were using a lot of them before, like Season 1 and 2. But I would say this is an overcorrection, because they have not used one really in, like, forever. At this point, wouldn't be surprised if the next matchup after Dante versus Clive is Ash versus Yugi. I wouldn't be surprised either. If Scorpion taught me anything, the best way to make good fighting game matchups is to have one of the characters not be from a fighting game. I mean, that's definitely a way you could look at it. I think really the way you look at it is you don't look at it from a fighting game perspective. You have a fighting game character, and if their best matchup happens to be from a fighting game, you go with that one. But if their best matchup is not from a traditional fighting game, then don't give him, or don't give that character a different fighting game matchup just because you really want it to be fighting game versus fighting game. Like, give them the character that works best for them, even if it's not from a fighting game, right? Because I understand there's the whole legacy behind it, and it might get more clicks if it's like, you know, Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. I'm like, we don't really need those anymore. Maybe we could get like one more of them, I don't know, but we don't need those as consistently anymore. Just prioritize what makes the matchup actually good. Are you going to watch the preview of Dante's analysis? I will watch the preview of Dante's analysis when I'm watching the official episode. I don't like to spoil my reactions like that. I don't know if there was something interesting that was said there. I know it's out right now, or it should be out right now. But I'm not going to watch that separate video, no. Bakugo needs to be on Deathbattle after the recent episode of the final season of My Hero Academia. Yeah, Bakugo's another one like Cell, where he just has a lot of opponents getting thrown at him. More kaiju fights would be appreciated. Who do you want eliminated in the current Champions Island poll? Well, it's easier for me to say which characters I want to see win the most. There aren't really any of them where I'm thinking like, oh man, like that character needs to be out. But of course there are characters I want to see win more than others. Constantine is out, which sucks. Spider-Man looks like he's getting taken out, which really sucks. But Henry Stickmin is staying in there. That's a character, of course, you know, he's right there. I'd love to see Henry Stickmin win the whole thing. Also Meta Knight, Ash Williams, and Slenderman. I would go with Slenderman too. Those are like, assuming Spider-Man gets out now, those are like the four I'd really want to see. And there's not really like a character among them where I'm thinking like, oh man, like that one, get them out. I hate that character. Not to say there aren't any characters where I could be thinking that way, but like as far as it stands right now, there aren't any that I like hate or anything. I don't think so. I don't think Raptor's putting hits out on characters. Basically, yeah. That's basically right. If Soul Eater were to return, which matchup is the most interesting to see? Soul Eater. As far as Sukuna matchups, isn't there like Sukuna versus Asura the Kishin? I don't know if that's my preferred for Sukuna. Obviously on this tournament we had Sukuna versus Muzan. But that one sounds like it could be interesting. Any matchups for Lord Death, maybe? I don't know. Ruby versus Maka is the one I latched onto the most, obviously, and now that one is done. Blackstar, does he have any cool ones? I don't know. But Soul Eater I would like to see come back again. I think Deathbattle did a really good job of talking about how Soul Eater works, in Ruby versus Maka especially. Which character in the whole Champions Island do you think has the best matchup spread if they won? See, this is what I wanted to see characters with really good matchup spreads get onto Champions Island. Not necessarily just characters that we really want to see. Because eventually we're going to have to, it's going to come down to a vote, like which one do we want to see the most. And I think that's just more interesting if they have good matchup spreads. Out of that though, I mean, Meta Knight has a wide matchup spread. Some people don't really like all of his matchups, though, but I would like to see Meta Knight get an episode anyway. I guess kind of in a similar boat to Spider-Man, but not, like, to the same degree. Did Frieren get knocked out? I actually don't remember. I think Frieren did get knocked out. I know she had some options. Again, in this tournament, we had Fushi versus Frieren. Damn. What other ones have like really good spread? Because for a lot of them, I kind of just think of like one or two main opponents, like Henry Stickmin, you know? Flowey has like two major opponents. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to remember all the characters. Steve's out. He had 2 opponents, or 2 main ones. Yeah, he has more obviously, but he had 2 main ones. Yeah, I don't know. So, some of them definitely have better matchup spreads than others. And I'm sure there's some characters that like I'm completely forgetting about as well. Ash, he has Frank West, obviously. Oh, and Slenderman. Slenderman has a couple. But Ash has mostly Frank West and Herbert West. I'm actually more of a Herbert West guy, honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised if Frank is the character they pit with him. And I don't think that would be a bad episode either. Ash has my favorite overall spread, I think. Yeah, I can see that, yeah. He does have some other ones too. I've heard Denji for him a few times. I'm still more Yuji versus Denji. I'm basic like that, but that's what I would say for that. Maybe too wide for Meta Knight. I actually like Meta Knight versus Zero, but my friend hates it. Please help me. Yeah, I got it. I would not be that disappointed if Meta Knight versus Zero happened. I don't think it's a perfect matchup, but I think it's fine. I don't really think there's anything like so wrong with it either. And maybe I'd be more against it if there was another Meta Knight matchup where it'd be like, this one is so obviously better. I don't know if Meta Knight has a matchup that is so obviously better, though. Recently, it looks like Meta Knight versus Knuckles has gotten really popular. I don't know if I understand that one, really. That's one if Meta Knight won and that was on the poll, I don't think I'd vote for that one. I'd probably rather either do like Zero or maybe Riku, or is Meta Knight versus Beta Ray Bill still a thing? That was a thing for a little bit. I'd still probably vote for that one maybe over Knuckles. Maybe it's my bias for Knuckles possibly fighting other characters, but I don't know. That one's not really up my alley, I don't think. Soul Eater popular matchups. Okay, Lord Death versus Koro Sensei, Frankenstein versus Faust from Guilty Gear, Death the Kid versus Stalking Anarchy, Black Star versus Killua, right, or Zeke, Xenoblade, Sukuna versus Kishin Asura. So that's the one that I said earlier, yeah. I wouldn't really want to see Lord Death versus Koro Sensei because I really want to see Monokuma versus Koro Sensei now. Death the Kid, I remember, Black Star, I kind of remember for Killua a while back too. So if it had to happen, maybe Sukuna versus Kishin Asura, although I still, although the Faust one seems pretty interesting, like the Guilty Gear, that could be cool. And that's not to say that that's my favorite Sukuna matchup. I just think that that's a pretty interesting one. While I like Yuji versus Denji, it'd be interesting Yuji fighting Asa Mitaka. We could have a scene where Sukuna and you were taken from... Oh, interesting. Okay, that sounds like a cool idea. Okay, Raptor, important question. Do you think Slenderman would be a great father towards Miku? I don't know. I don't know if I want to answer that one. Riku versus Meta Knight is Meta Knight's best matchup. Okay, so some Meta Knight discourse. I see. To be honest, a lot of people don't know how peak Henry's matchup spread is. Okay. I think I've heard some other matchups for him. Not any that makes me think that this isn't, like, far and away his best. But, fair enough. You know, someone could have a best opponent but still have, like, other opponents that are quite good. And best opponent is subjective anyway. I don't know why I'm saying that as if, like, we can all agree on that, because we probably can't. More Meta Knight matchups, alright. Slender would snap Miku's neck. Okay, thank you for saying that out loud, Zach. Thank you. Thank you for saying... I was gonna say thank you for saying it so I didn't have to say it, but I just did say it. How much more time we got? Okay, so it's... For my time anyway, it's 4:03. I can stay on probably for like 15 more minutes. Then I think I have to get out. We have a nice little group for chatting, and that's been nice. Oh, and yeah, I guess I didn't even technically mention this. I was going to mention this sometime in the stream, that there was a 10-second slow mode. Only just to make... Because I didn't want to stop you guys from talking to each other that much, but I also didn't want to be, like, overwhelmed with messages, so I thought, like, 10 seconds was fine. Doesn't seem like that caused any sort of issue. Sukuna has a lot of matchups. I understand with their preference. I want Sukuna versus King Piccolo, like Demon King Piccolo, right? It's a great connection and theme. Please be the next Dragon Ball episode. Isn't a monkey. Okay, jeez. Sukuna versus Demon King Piccolo, I've heard quite a few times before as well. That one sounds like it could be fun. But I'm just saying, like, specifically from the Soul Eater perspective. Kishin Asura, I think, could be cool for Sukuna as well. Sakuya has good matchups, but a lot of the options I like are with characters most people don't know, so they probably wouldn't win. Yeah, I see that. I understand. Any Danganronpa matchups you like? Mostly, the big one is Monokuma versus Koro Sensei. Especially after the Death Battle cast and learning what it's all about. Yeah, I really want that one now. Other than that, nothing really that, like, really reaches high up there for me. Doesn't mean, though, that I'm not rooting for new series to get to Death Battle. Like, a series doesn't have to be in my most wanted for me to be like, okay, it's really cool they're using this series. Like, if Danganronpa got on the show in some way, like, awesome. Why not? Let's do it, right? But as far as specific matchups, it's really just Monokuma versus Koro Sensei. Infinity Ultron versus Dio over Heaven, Marvel's What If versus JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting one. Is that one still... I know that one had like a boost of popularity at one point. Does that still get talked about? I don't know. But I remember hearing that one quite a bit. And of course, like, the connection is obvious. It's like Old Man Logan versus Last Ronin. Like, you see it and you immediately know why it's a matchup. I just don't want more Chainsaw Man versus Jujutsu Kaisen episodes besides Yuji versus Denji. I think that's fair, honestly. Yuji versus Denji is really the only one from that combination of series I'd want as well. The Jurassic franchise needs to be on Death Battle. I would like that. Whether it's through the ridiculous Indominus Rex versus Sharktopus, or also, what is it, Blue versus Caesar from Planet of the Apes, like the new Planet of the Apes series. That has the whole, like, experiment animal thing that I quite like with my matchups, like Shadow versus Mewtwo and Stitch versus Rocket. So, you know, that one I think would be cool as well. Remember when everybody wanted Yoda versus Meta Knight until Yoda got revealed to fight King Mickey? Yeah, I do remember that. Yoda versus Meta Knight really isn't being talked about anymore. I think that Death Battle kind of shut that down. And that's fine with me. I was not expecting Yoda versus King Mickey at all, but after I thought about it more, I'm like, holy shit, this goes so hard. And the episode also goes so hard. In the grand scheme of things, still one of my favorite episodes. I've seen Caesar versus the guy from Detroit Become Human thrown around, actually. Okay, interesting. I don't hear Caesar get brought up that much in these discussions, to be honest. Rexy versus Bruce. Yeah, I've heard that one a little bit. What's a popular matchup that you see a whole lot but don't actually like that much? Well, I think we kind of already looked at Perfect Cell versus Metal Sonic. Not the biggest fan of that one. Similar vein, Mario versus Kirby. I kind of just see that as a worse version of Mario versus Sonic, to be honest. So not super huge into that one. Anything else that's like really, really popular? It's hard for me to dislike a matchup, right? I don't even think like Percy Jackson versus Zagreus is that bad of a matchup. I would prefer Percy against someone else, right? So from that perspective, it could be like, well, I don't really want to see this matchup, but that's more so because of other matchups and not really because I think this matchup is just awful. Do you consider Greg versus Nate a popular matchup? Because if so, that one definitely falls under there. Same with Future Gohan versus Invincible War. That one would definitely fall under there. Yeah, I don't know. Those are just some examples. I'm sure if I had more time to think about it. The good thing about writing videos is that I have a lot of time to think and make sure I get all my thoughts, all my thoughts brought out and written down. For this, I kind of just have to go off the top of my head. I prefer Meta Knight versus Riku. Understandable. Again, I don't even know who my preferred for Meta Knight necessarily is. I get the appeal of Meta Knight versus Riku for sure. I know this is probably a long shot, but I have a feeling Tifa Lockhart versus Makoto Nijima will happen next year. I'd be interested in that one. That's among my favorite pitched matchups, I would say, that we've seen so far, because I think a lot more are going to be revealed at some point. But I kind of wanted to make my pitched matchup review video before that point, because it could take forever. And if they're not going to announce a full list, then at some point it's like, okay, well, I just want to make the video. Zagreus has pit and beheaded. Don't know why Percy is popular. I mean, the community works in mysterious ways, right? You never know. Percy has a lot of different opponents. I think it probably is the tournament. Like, even if there are some people that are like, oh, like, I don't want that one, there are going to be some people where maybe they didn't really think of a good Percy matchup before. Or maybe they really like Hades and they're like, I don't really know any other Zagreus matchups. You never know person to person, right? Like, what they think. For people like us who are like really ingrained in the community, it can seem kind of like, well, why do you like this one when this one's right here? But the problem is, well, not the problem. The fact is everyone has a voice. That's not a problem. The fact is everyone has a voice, even the people who are not as ingrained in this community as everyone else, right? That's one of the great things. Thoughts on Azamasu versus Gore the God Butcher? Another one of among my favorite pitched matchups. There's a part of me that's like, we've seen a lot of like Dragon Ball versus comic book heralds to the point where I'm like, is this really necessary? But it's so distinct on its own, has such a great contrast concept that there's a part of me that kind of wants it anyway. Or actually, wait, is it popular? I've only seen it brought up in the tournament. I think the tournament made it more popular. But yes, like it gets talked about more now, for sure. Kurumi Tokasaki versus Homura Kemi needs to happen next year. I would love that. Definitely one of my favorite matchups that I would not put in my top 50. But that's another one that I think, I don't know if the person's still here, but someone asked a long time ago, like, what is potentially your 50th new most wanted death battle? And I listed off, like, Spy versus Agent 47. It could be X versus Optimus Primal, Darth Maul versus Judge Gabranth. And maybe some other ones I listed off. Kurumi versus Homura, I think, would also be a potential for new 50th. You think there's going to be a Bayonetta reference in Dante versus Clive? Maybe. Not sure, but maybe. It's possible. We haven't had a Marvel versus DC in a bit. And once it does return, what matchup are you hoping for it to be? My number one most wanted Marvel versus DC right now is Deathstroke versus Taskmaster. And with Blade versus Buffy just happening with the Halloween matchup, the Halloween fight for this year, I'm not sure if I have faith in Mysterio versus Scarecrow being the Halloween matchup for next year. But yeah, Deathstroke versus Taskmaster, Vision versus Red Tornado, if anyone likes that one, if anyone besides me likes that one, I'd like to see that one too. But the main answer is Deathstroke versus Taskmaster. Thoughts on the Disney Princess Battle Royale? Just the ones that are debatable, the rest can leave. I mean, yeah, I don't really know how they would do that. Do they just include the characters that they think work best for it? I don't know. But as far as just the concept itself, I mean, it's silly, but, you know, Death Battle's worked really well with silly stuff before. So I don't want to rule it out just because it's silly. John Wick's another character that has a lot of matchups, yep. Do you have a preferred for John Wick? I'd love to see him come back. For John Wick, well, the ones you listed, Agent 47... The Bride, Robert McCall's Spy, and Jacket. Well, I think Agent 47 and Spy should fight each other. The Bride could be cool. Obviously, there's Yor versus The Bride, Yor Forger. But that one vibes really well for me, I think. I almost said Max Payne, but I think that's more of a Punisher matchup. Or, actually, I don't know. Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is more of a Punisher matchup. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe The Bride, but that's difficult to say. I think we're going to start wrapping it up soon. Not that I don't love talking to you guys, but I do have to start moving at some point. Let me just check the... I can leave this tab, actually, thankfully. Okay, looks like the stream's been healthy the whole time. I love to see that. But at some point, yes, I will have to end the stream, unfortunately. Probably within, like, I don't know, probably like 5 minutes. Rapunzel planet level, what scaling am I missing? Some of these Disney characters, even if you're not looking at, what is it? Even if you're not looking at Kingdom Hearts, some of that classic Disney stuff gets, like, unnecessarily stupid. I'm just gonna say it. Wait, you're moving? No, I'm not moving. I just have to get moving. I'm going out for dinner with my family and my grandma, and I don't want to keep her waiting. Yeah, Raptor needs to move into my DMs. Shut the fuck up, Zach. You're so smooth with it. You're always so smooth with it. Ayo, freaky sack, yeah. Mysterio versus Scarecrow feels like a matchup that should have happened already. I agree, although with the quality that they're at now, doing Mysterio versus Scarecrow like that, I think they have the potential to make it better than they've ever made it before, which is really cool. I'm really happy about that. But of course, it might not happen for a while. For the next Halloween fight, I don't know, they could do more of like a creepypasta thing. They might go back to like more classic horror. Obviously, Freddy Krueger versus Pennywise is right there. I'd love to see that one. So we'll see. I hear a lot about it from either Kingdom Hearts or Disney Infinity. They wouldn't include Disney Infinity, would they? Well, I mean, we've already had Disney Infinity characters on Deathbattle, and they haven't included it for them already, so I don't think they would include Disney Infinity. Like, that's like including Smash for characters in Smash Bros. If a character's from a big franchise, always assume that they can solo your favorite characters in versus. Unfortunately, sometimes. Unfortunately. I mean, they could do Mysterio versus Scarecrow and not have it be a Halloween episode. That's totally true. Anything that's spookier doesn't need to be allocated to just that. Pretty sure it comes from the Tangled series. Although, what the hell did she do in that series? I know what the series is, but I never watched it. What the hell does she do with that series to get up to that level? It's crazy. This is why you gotta... Your preconceived notion of a character could always be completely different. And that's the beauty of Deathbattle, right? That you can show off what they're actually able to do that people don't know about. But of course, if you're not like a big researcher or anything, then... You know, you're kind of out of luck, or you're going to get surprised when it appears in an episode. I know what happened for Stitch for a lot of people. I know what happened for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Hell, I expected Buffy to lose. There were things that I was not expecting, things that I didn't know about for Buffy. And I consider myself a pretty big Buffy fan. So, you know, you never know. That's why you have these people that do all the research, or as much research as they possibly can, because things are always going to be surprising for people. When will the Rapture happen, my king? If you're in the Discord, you know the Rapture was already a thing. That was when one of the mods got hacked and the server almost got completely destroyed. Thankfully, we're well past that, but that's what the Rapture was, in case anyone didn't know. Again, the Discord link is in the description if anyone wants to join. It's a fun time there. Denji vs. Yuji would be a big one. People say she turns Super Saiyan? Jeez, I gotta look this up now. Time to look up Tangled scaling. Anything planned for Raptorween? Not really, no. I think, my family is doing kind of like a game night. I think originally we were planning on doing it for Halloween, but now we've moved it up earlier in the week. Which is fine. But I think that was kind of like, an idea. So other than that, though, nothing really that big. In the series, I think Rapunzel can just absorb and counter magic. So maybe that's kind of where it comes from. Like, we've seen the magic that she's countering doing all of this. Although, of course, then you have to look at, does it only specifically work on that kind of magic? Or does it also apply to, like, her general power supply that she personally has and she can use in other ways? That's always a big thing you gotta keep in mind. Before just like reading something, a brief synopsis, and being like, oh, well, this definitely means she's at this level. Again, I'm not trying to go one way or the other. I haven't seen the show, but you always got to look at the details for that stuff. Always, always, always. I'm almost finished my water. Thankfully, I was considering getting 2 waters. Even though I wasn't drinking for a while and I have been very thirsty, I think it's good I only got the one. Otherwise, I think the other one would have been mostly wasted. Rapunzel has nothing on the Cinderella how not to draw video. I don't know if I've seen that, but I'll take your word for it. Is that like some scaling that she gets from that or something? I don't know. Always gotta consider the validity of what we're looking at, but that's just something I haven't really heard of. Glad I was able to join this community recently. Thank you so much. Yes. Again, I'm hoping to do more streams just throughout 2026, and we'll have the other one in December. But I'm really happy you could join for this one. I think this turned out pretty well. I'm really happy with the way that the general tournament went. It's been very fun. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I think Raptor, I have to be honest with you. You are so funny for no real reason. What does that mean? Am I supposed to be offended by that? I'm not, but I don't know if I should be. I do weird. Yeah, and now for some reason I'm just going back to fucking like the Ringmaster impression and the fucking Patrick impression from earlier in the stream. Yeah, I don't know. I don't work too well under pressure, I think, and that's kind of why I want to do more of these streams, to get more. Sometimes I can't find the words, like even right there, I just couldn't find the words, right? Like sometimes I just want to get better at being put on the spot and all that. Okay, we're gonna be stopping in just a second, but even though Buffy has just been on the show, I really want to see her come back. Buffy versus Geralt is a matchup I found on Reddit. What matchup would you like to see if she returns? Blade versus Buffy was really the one I wanted, to be honest. I'm sure there are other matchups for her. The one you said sounds interesting, but I don't know. To me, like, that's the Buffy matchup. And I'm sure that there are other ones out there, but to me, that's the one. I've heard Buffy versus Dean. I've been watching Supernatural, but especially after, you know, all the material that Buffy has, I don't think Buffy versus Dean is really that fair. Raptor, I have to be honest, your beard is sexy for no real reason. I am honestly more proud of the beard than I used to be. If you go back and watch like other videos where I'm on camera from like years and years ago, I think I was trying to make the beard work, and at the time it just didn't really work. So then I went clean shaven for a while, and then I started growing it again. I'm like, wait, this actually looks better than it used to. I don't know if you can tell, it's like it's certainly more red than the top of my head, which is like, that's more like just brown hair. But because I think one of my grandfathers or something had red hair, the genes got passed to me, and now I have red beard hair. It looks a lot more red like in the sunlight, which of course you guys don't see. One, because I don't film outside, and two, because I don't go outside. I don't touch grass. No, I'm kidding. No, it really doesn't look good for Dean, yeah. Beard mentioned. Oh, I'm happy I got the beard mention in for you guys. I think that's basically everything we need to do for this stream. Raptor, how do I convince people to vote for my matchup on versus matchup reviews? Well, again, we don't want to do vote farming, right? I consider that against the rules. But if you mean like within the people that are already there, I'd say just make the case for your matchup. Like, really explain why you think it's good. And hopefully other people that are like, you know, again, naturally there, will vote for it. But I think this is where we have to wrap it up. Again, I do have to get going in a few minutes. But thank you so much for watching this stream, for, you know, coming through the tournament with me. It was really fun to see what you guys voted for. To anyone who gave a super chat as well, very special thanks to you guys, of course. Because again, like I know I enabled super chats, but like I don't actually expect anyone to like use it. but I really appreciate it to anyone. The one guy who gave $50, I don't know if he's still in the chat, but thank you especially so much for that. I appreciate that tons. And yes, again, another stream. I am planning to do one in December, and then I'm hoping to make this a more regular thing in 2026. Not necessarily knowing what I'm gonna do, but I'll try to figure it out. Maybe doing more of like a scheduled thing, like it's kind of the same thing every stream, or maybe I'll try to do like something very different for every stream. There are multiple ways you could do it if you're doing it like consistently like that, right? Thanks for the good time. A final send-off message to Lilo and Stitch live action movie sucks. I still haven't seen it. I think I will see it before the end of the year, but there's a part of me that's like, it's new Stitch content, but like it sounds bad. From what I've heard, I know. I know. The live action movie thing is just, even in the rare instances where they can be enjoyable, we just don't need them. I know they make money, but I kind of wish they would stop making money. Thanks for the stream. Have a good time. You have a good time as well. I appreciate all you guys so much. And with that, I think we can wrap it up. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.